across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I will be your host for the next 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 10 o'clock. Get involved, get stuck in and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Tuesday, August the 12th, a searing, hot, lovely summer's day. Just enjoy it. Don't worry. You won't die. Here's what's coming up. Just 6 days into 2 tiers, 1 in, 1 out scheme, and our supreme leaders swap a foreigner deterrent has spectacularly failed to deter more than 2,000 migrants from crossing the channel illegally. 435 on Saturday. I believe it was 474 yesterday, and so many more. Hundreds more apparently pouring over from France today. It's an absolute mess, folks. The Prime Minister's dismal deal with Macron is clearly not deterring anyone. Another desperate plan bites the dust. 0344 499 1000. And back on Planet Downing Street, Starmer's hopeless twonks continue to insist that their bungling boss's other great initiative, his hilarious Smash the Gangs disaster, has not failed. It hasn't failed. Eh? 1 year and 1 month and not a single people smuggling gang smashed. So what is that? A stunning success? 0344 499 1000. In other news, shocking new statistics reveal that 1.3 million foreign nationals are claiming universal credit. That's up from just under 928,000 2 years ago. So, long-suffering British taxpayers fund every aspect of migrants' lives when they are seeking asylum, and then after they are allowed to stay permanently, we carry on paying for vast numbers of them. Is it just me, or is this an astronomically expensive catastrophe? 0344 499 1000. And on a general level, by the way, a staggering 8 million claimants are on universal credit altogether. 3.6 million of them excused work forever. Is broken Britain addicted to ruinous welfare? 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, in an hour or so at 8 p.m, I'll be joined by Reform's latest female firebrand, Layla Cunningham, on the threat to women from the ongoing invasion of thousands of young men from cultures with very different attitudes, according to MP Sarah Poshin. Much of the danger is posed by Islamic men with medieval views. I'll ask Layla for her thoughts on that. What are yours? 0344 499 1000. And does Westminster Councillor Layla believe that London Mayor Sadiq Khan is gaslighting the public with massaged crime figures? The true statistics would tend to point towards the fact that he is. 0344 499 1000. He's actually saying that London's getting safer, that the crime figures are plummeting. No, they're not. And finally, the problem with soft-touch lefty judges after a judge spared a Nigerian migrant who sexually assaulted a terrified 19-year-old girl because of his, and I quote, troubled background and difficult life. I'll take a look at some of the dubious decisions by Immigration Tribunal Judge Hugo Norton-Taylor. He's the learned beak who ruled that a Sudanese asylum seeker with receding grey hair, claiming to be 16, was telling the truth and looked older than his years because of the stress of his long, harrowing journey to Britain. Absolutely. Who could argue with that? All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now. On Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Tuesday night together. It being Tuesday, let's go over to my first spectacular guest. He is the columnist for The Sun, for the Sunday Times and The Spectator, and the presenter of Times Radio's smash hit Saturday morning show, Rod Little. Hi, Rod. How you doing?
Hiya, Kev. How you doing?
I'm all right, mate.
I'm glad you're getting stuck into Mr. Norton Phillips or whatever he's called.
Norton Taylor. His dad was
Norton Taylor.
Richard Norton Taylor was his father.
Richard Naughty Trousers. Yes, that's right.
I don't think we better go into that. A long-term Guardian hat with a seamed hatred of Israel. So it looks to me as if Mr. Norton Taylor Hugo is a chip off the old block, but we'll talk about that later. I want to talk to you first of all. A couple of sort of issues arising from some of your columns this week. But first up, what is going on in Wrexham? In what kind of world do the police take it upon themselves to go round to a shopkeeper who's put up a sign saying, due to scumbag shoplifters, I'm sorry, I've had to lock a lot of my produce in cabinets. And what kind of a copper goes to him and says, I've got to warn you that that's provocative and could cause offence? I mean, first of all, it's a copper who doesn't understand the law. When are these cops going to work out, these rozzers, going to work out that it is not against the law in Britain to be offensive or to offend people? This particular old Bill didn't seem to understand that.
No, he's a moron. And so was the other one who turned up. I think two of them turned up. The only good thing to come out of this, because I spoke to the shopkeeper, Rob Davis, and the only good thing to come out of it, I said to him, are you going to take your sign down then, Rob? And he said, yes, I am. And I'm going to put another one up 5 times the size.
Oh, I like the sound of him.
He's good. He's good. And, you know, you can predict the story, can't you? He's been a victim of shoplifting 5 times so far this year. And how many police turned up to help him? You know, it's excruciatingly bad judgment by North Wales Police. I've rung them today to find out, by the way, how many prosecutions and how many convictions they've nailed for shoplifting offences in the last year. They haven't got back yet. I got one message. It consisted all of W's, Y's and G's by the look of it. So it was in Welsh. But I think it just said, thank you, we'll look into your inquiry. I mean, it is shocking. What we're doing, obviously, we are decriminalising shoplifting. It's clear. Yeah. But not only that, it's just evidence that the police think far more highly of the shoplifters than they do of the shopkeepers.
Yeah.
I think that's the wrong way around.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Call me a reactionary, but I think that's the wrong way around.
You're a right-wing disgrace to this country. You really are.
Deplorable.
Yeah. No, look, North Wales Police have belatedly come to the conclusion that it does not appear that Mr. Davis has committed any offence.
Well, of course he hasn't.
And they say it would be up to the shopkeeper to decide whether he displayed such a sign in his store. Correct. Late in life, you've got that right. The Wrexham City District Inspector Rodri Efans went on to say, each day my officers go above and beyond to identify risk individuals and locations to prevent further incidents of shoplifting. So a guy puts up a sign, you know, basically a kind of a warning to shoplifters, and the police don't approve of that.
No, they think it's nasty. They think it's horrid. And it's. There were 2 stories over the weekend, both of which showed the same thing, which is there is the police on one side of the argument and the entire country on the other. The other one, of course, was the nutter who got his old fella out.
The tube train, the British Transport Police, who are now actively searching for the 4 heroes
Yes.
who, when this guy dropped his trousers and his pants in front at 3:30 in the afternoon at the weekend on a busy train over in East London, a tube train, he drops his trousers and his pants, traumatising women and children. 4 guys go, hang on, mate, there's kids on the plane, pull your trousers. He started screaming and shouting at them. They restrained him. It was quite physical, I think, quite rightly so, because the guy, and then they took him off the train at the next stop, restrained him and put him on the platform and called for help.
Handed him over.
Yeah, in what way? Yeah, why do they want to check? Why do they want to arrest them? They say that these guys look to have possibly been guilty of assault. They are the good guys. They did the right thing. What is wrong with the police here?
And so we've had this debate in the country over the last year or so. What would you do if you saw a crime being committed? Would you intervene? Would you do the right thing? And people were surprised when the figures came back that an awful lot of people wouldn't do the right thing. And you know why that is. It's very straightforward. It's because you think that you're probably going to get done by the filth for actually intervening in the first case. That's why it happens. You know, I don't get why these moronic chiefs of police don't understand that, you know, that what side they're meant to be on. The people who do the right thing, not the others. Now, sure, 40 years ago, perhaps the police were a bit too roughy-tufty with criminals. Perhaps they didn't always give them their rights. Perhaps they weren't the kindest in the world. But the pendulum has, on everything else, has swung way too far in the other direction, so that the police no longer know what they're there for.
Yeah, and would it be too much to ask that, you know, I don't expect a police constable on the streets of Wrexham to be, you know, have the legal knowledge of a barrister or anything like that, but a few basic points of law. In fact, a lot of coppers, including senior coppers, including chief constables, could do with some instruction on some basic points of law. About 3 years ago, the Merseyside chief police constable sent out vans, slogan vans, all around Merseyside, and on these vans was a warning to the people of Liverpool that it is an offence to be offensive. The chief constable of Merseyside was quietly told, actually, boss, it's not an offence, isn't it? No, it's not. So they had to bring all the vans down. I mean, where down the line did the police decide that to be offensive, to offend anyone, was somehow a criminal offence?
I think it was sometime around the elevation of Sir Ian Blair to boss of the Met. I think that's where the rot started to set in. And it's because of all these things, because of the lawyers as well, but because we now afford far more rights and privileges to offenders than we do to the people that the police are meant to be protecting us from. That it's become an absurdity that they spend half of their time looking through internet sites to see if anyone's been nasty about anyone else. And when they find that someone's been nasty about a shoplifter, it's a knee-jerk reaction. They click into gear. That must be a crime. It is a madness. And it's also, you know, what it does is, just as with the nutter with his old fella out on the tube, that's got ramifications because it means other people will be reluctant to get involved or to intervene in a dispute in the future. The shoplifting stuff has ramifications. Firstly, more shoplifting will take place. Secondly, we'll see what happened. What will happen in this country is what's happened in San Francisco, the various other places which have decriminalised shoplifting, in that all the businesses will go out of business. You know, that you will see boarded up shops all along your high streets, and commercial enterprises will all fail. Because you cannot cope in a world that we have if your stock is being pillaged every few weeks.
Well, exactly right. Now, to go back to the Wrexham and the poor shopkeeper there, this again is the Wrexham City District Inspector. This is a top copper, Rodri Evans. He goes on to say a dedicated team of officers in Wrexham have consistently maintained the highest detection rate for shoplifting offences within the force over the past 2 years. He goes on to say, and check this out, over the last 12 months alone, a total of 14 individuals who repeatedly committed shoplifting offences within the city have been subjected to a community behaviour order through the courts, wait for it, preventing them from entering the city centre. Well, this is Mr. Ifan's idea of, dealing with shoplifters in a very tough way. It's not really, is it? Community behaviour orders.
No, I wonder if that explains why they haven't replied to me with my very, very civil inquiry about how many shoplifters they've prosecuted in the last year.
Well, there you are. 14, it looks like, over the last 12 months alone. A total of 14 individuals have been subjected to a community behaviour order. Well, Wrexham, I suppose, is a fairly small place, so I suppose we shouldn't get too judgmental about that small-seeming number. But it does seem to be quite small, doesn't it? It's 14.
North Wales Police, by the way, were the cops who considered prosecuting me for being rude about the Welsh language by saying it didn't have any vowels in it. So they actually considered bringing a prosecution for a hate crime against someone who commented on the number of vowels in their language. That is the level we're at,
Is that murder most vowel or something? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, very good, very good.
Well, you and you're still in trouble, aren't you, in Brighton for not being very nice?
No, I rang the filth there as well, and they said, no, we're not taking any further action on this case. I said, no, I'm not talking about against me. I'm talking about that moron who runs the council for wasting police time. Why aren't you having a go at her? And don't forget, she's complicit in all those asylum seekers who are coming here. She's part of an organisation which works to represent them and to make sure they get the right to stay.
Oh, but I mean, we're going to talk about this later in the show, but Downing Street issued a statement today saying that refuting the very suggestion that Smash the Gangs, 1 year and 1 month after it was instigated, having not smashed any gangs, Downing Street said that doesn't mean it's a failure.
Yeah, no, indeed.
It sort of does, really, doesn't it?
but I think they've dropped it because he hasn't said smash the gangs for a few days because he thinks his one in, one out deal will do.
Yeah.
I mean, just the title, the one in, one out. How is that going to help, Keir?
Yeah. Well, again, I'm intruding on topics that we're going to do later in the show. But over the scheme came in last Wednesday, so it's 6 days old, and about 2,300 migrants have come over since the start of the scheme, which is supposed to be a deterrent. So I would suggest that maybe it's not really deterring anyone.
It's not deterring anyone.
It's not working, is it? I've got to play, Keir, we're going to go to break in a second, Rod, but I'm going to play a little bit of Keir Starmer talking about shoplifting, so stick around.
Okay, good.
Take it away, Keir.
So today I'm putting shoplifters on notice. You might get away with it under this weak Tory government, but if Labour takes power, we won't stand by while crime takes over our streets. We'll put 13,000 extra neighbourhood police on the beat. We'll scrap the shoplifters' charter, the £200 rule that stops the police investigating theft in your workplace. And we'll legislate to make sure assaulting and abusing shop workers is a standalone criminal offence, because you deserve to feel safe at work.
And then, Rod, he got elected. We'll be back in just a second. Stick around, folks.
Why are they being housed in hotels? Why are they being clothed? Why are they being given money and free pickleball or cinema tickets or whatever it might be? We have to stop the pull factor. We are a laughing stock. We are being looked at by the rest of Europe and, in fact, the rest of the world as such a soft touch. That's why people are leaving safe countries like France to come to England.
Yeah, it is absolutely and utterly ridiculous how bad it's got. I mean, the Tories were bad enough.
Would you call shoplifters scumbags?
I'd call them scumbags, and worse. Yes, this is modern parlance for perfectly understandable what we think of people who are just stealing from other people. It's normal parlance, and to think that the police even thought it worthwhile to visit, quite frankly, I think speaks volumes about...
Perhaps if they bothered to visit when there was a scumbag shoplifter in the shop, then we wouldn't have such a problem.
Well, you're absolutely right.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still talking to columnist Rod Liddle. Rod, I have here in my hand a piece of paper. It's your excellent column in The Spectator, The Lies of the Land. And it lays out in excruciating detail the fact that we have, as a people, been lied to for 60 years about immigration. Crime figures in terms of ethnicity have been withheld, a truth deliberately kept from the people so that they didn't know just how catastrophic letting in millions of foreigners have been, and so on and so forth. You cite statistics such as foreign nationals based here in the UK are 70% more likely to be convicted of sex crimes. Albanians are 18 times more likely to be convicted of theft. Meanwhile, of course, the descendants of Blair continue to pretend that 1 million or so new legal migrants flooding in every year are good for the economy. But as you point out, the Office for Budget Responsibility has revealed that on average, a low-skilled migrant costs this country, UK taxpayers, £150,000 by the time they hit pensionable age, and £500,000 if they make it to 80. And by 2063, by the 2063, it is estimated that white Brits will be a minority in their own country. I mean, the scandal is it's only just now that people are beginning to be given this information that they should have had the right to all along, but it's been kept a deliberate secret from them. It's a shocking scandal, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I've got a long memory, and I can't remember in any election from 74. I was kind of conscious in 70 as a precocious and horrible little 10-year-old, but I can't remember in any election from 1974 onwards where a party has said, we intend to bring many more immigrants into the country. That just hasn't happened. You know, not even Blair. Not even Blair said that. They've done it undercover, you know, and they've done it undercover to such a degree that we're bankrupt. We're costing ourselves so much money through both the illegal asylum seekers who arrive here on their boats from Calais, but even more so from the families of, you know, Pakistani, Bangladeshi immigrants who came here years ago and now auntie and cousins are over here as well, all on the public tit, so to speak. And they've changed the shape of the country, the culture of the country, they've changed the demography of towns so the people who grew up in towns are not allowed to say, oh, it's changed around here and I don't really like it, because they'll be thought of as being racist. It's been a terrible con perpetrated against the people of this country.
Yeah, we've been deceived on a mass basis. And I wonder, Rob, I mean, what is the motivation? Why did Blair and all his Blairite descendants, why have generations of politicians, Westminster politicians, wanted to do this? Why have they done this?
Well, a couple of reasons. With Blair, it was ideological, largely. But also, there is no doubt that if you bring in a few 100,000 immigrants, there is a temporary boost to the treasury. And it is also true that you bring in very low-skilled workers, they'll undercut British workers' wages and do jobs cheaper, and so industry's very, very happy. So it's those two twin ideas: firstly, cheap labour, and secondly, ideology.
Yeah, I suppose the practical nature of it I can understand. I don't approve of it, but I get it. A lot of business owners are very keen on hiring cheap foreign labour. But the ideological side of the equation is extremely worrying. Just generations of politicians who somehow decided and continue to believe that diluting British culture, diluting our country with millions and millions of foreigners. They are coming in, as you say, at the rate of not much less than about 1 million a year legally, not to mention the illegal invasion as well. But these politicians who somehow just sort of philosophically think that must be a good thing. You know, that's what worries me, because it's not a good thing, is it?
Well, they think it's a good thing because they loathe British culture. I mean, if you talk to someone about someone in the Green Party or the Liberal Democrats, or indeed much of the Labour Party, about British culture, they will tell you that it's imperialistic, racist, outdated, and the sooner we forget about it, the better. You know, the Conservatives won't say that, but nor then do they do anything to stop the huge numbers coming in. And indeed, under Boris Johnson, who lied through his teeth about immigration, more came in, you know, more than ever before. And he did that because, you know, there are certain people, columnists, writers, people like Fraser Nelson, you know, who believe very strongly that immigration is great for the country economically and doesn't really cause a problem culturally. And they continue to think that even when, you know, people are stabbed to death on Westminster Bridge or Manchester Arena's blown up, or simply that you cannot, you know, wander about your old hometown in safety anymore.
But it is a fact that letting in millions of low-skilled labour workers, you know, immigrants, is not good for the economy. As you said, most of them actually cost us quite a lot of money.
It's not good for the economy in the end.
Yeah, in the short term. In the short term, if you've got more people spending money, you'll have a slightly more buoyant economy. But in the long term, it is a fact. It is not good for this economy. So why do people like Fraser Nelson, normally a man to be admired, why does he still cling to this lie?
The arguments are complex. One of them is about our declining birth rate, which doesn't bother me one bit, incidentally, I have to say, because we've still got plenty of people in this country, as your earlier slide showed, who are doing absolutely nout about going to work, but sitting there on benefits. So, you know, there is a pool of labour there, should we need it. But because I simply do not believe that these people who claim to be suffering from anxiety, I mean, hell, Kev, I'm suffering from anxiety, you know? My wife's coming home in 15 minutes and I haven't got the dinner ready, you know? That's anxiety.
That's a mental health problem. If you're sad or you're anxious, that's a mental health problem.
Yes,
you know, my parents just died. Oh, you got a mental health problem. No. You're sad. You're grieving. That's not mental health. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
So, what are you going to lead your column, your Thursday Sun column on, Rod?
Well, the Spectator column I'm doing on Rob Davis, that excellent shopkeeper from Wrexham.
Good man.
A bit more on that, and I think he might crop up in the Sun as well. Other than that, I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure, but I suspect the name Keir Starmer will feature somewhere in the copy.
Sir Keir. Excellent. I look forward to it, Rod. Always good to talk to you, mate. Have a good one. Cheers. The great Rod Liddle there. Next up, we're going to go to break now, of course, and when we come back, we're going to be talking from the Centre for Migration, Robert Bates, the director of that excellent organisation. We have a lot of migrant crisis topics to discuss. We really, really do. One in, one out. So far, it's worked out about none in. So let's get this right. It's worked out about 2,300 in, none out. So it's not really working out, is it? The deterrent just is already 1 in, 1 out can demonstrably be shown to have failed as a deterrent, because a record number of migrants have come in since last Wednesday when the 1 in, 1 out scheme started. A record number. It's unbelievable. And of course, we're going to go over 50,000 since Starmer came in. So we're now well over 50,000 migrants have broken into this country illegally since Keir Starmer came in and said, I will solve the migrant crisis. How do you think that's going for him? 03444991000. Robert Bates next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let's, as I said, let's go straight over to my next guest, Director for the Centre for Migration Control, Robert Bates. Welcome, Robert.
Evening, Kev. Sorry I can't be with you tonight.
That's okay. We've got you down the line, as we say in the business, which is almost as good. Lots to talk about, I would suggest. Of course, the number of illegal migrant crossings since Keir Starmer took the helm of the good ship Britain back in July the 5th last year, has now passed the shocking 50,000 milestone, and the point being, as I was just saying to Rod Little, look, 1 in, 1 out is a deterrent. The whole point of 1 in, 1 out is it's supposed to be a deterrent. You know, the message, somehow or other, Keir Starmer thinking that if you say to all migrants you've got a 6% chance of getting sent back to France and a 94% chance of staying in Britain, that somehow that will make them think, oh, I'm not risking that. A bit ridiculous as a proposal, if you ask me. But anyway, so it came into play last Wednesday, August the 6th. On that very day, when the deterrent first became operational, 155. The next day, the Thursday, 248. A day off on Friday, nothing then. Saturday, 435. Sunday, 281. Yesterday, a bumper 474, and I'm hearing from my spies down on the south coast that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds more have come across today. 1 in, 1 out is already a demonstrable flop. It hasn't worked. It's not deterring anyone, is it?
No, and I think many people are looking at the proposition of 1 in, 1 out and thinking, actually, I don't want any in and I want 1 out. I want hundreds of thousands of out. So I think the whole framing of this plan is one that's fundamentally flawed and doesn't understand where the British population are. And of course, when we actually look at the logistics and the technicalities of this plan, best case scenario, we will see 800 illegal migrants return to France. In return, of course, we get 800 back, and they are then a long-term cost that we have to deal with. But that is, if we're going to hear about 50,000 illegal boat crossings this year, which I think we are very likely to do so, then we're seeing about a 2% chance of individuals that are coming across the channel being those that are actually returned. This is a complete farce. And when you contrast it with, and I was a very big critic of the Rwanda plan because it was an incomplete plan. It had not got at its heart leaving the ECHR and the whole human rights infrastructure that was effectively frustrating proper border control. But when you contrast the deterrent that would have been if properly implemented, where it would have meant to individuals, there's a very strong chance that you will be deported and you will never be able to settle in Britain, and you will never have any right to return to Britain and settle in Britain. When you compare that with what this is, which is effectively us having bent the knee to France and really us having agreed to help France with their jungle, their Calais jungle, and their situation that they're seeing in northern France, you realise that Keir Starmer doesn't care two jots about whether this situation and the number of illegal migrants coming to Britain is actually solved. He just cares about the optics, and he cares about making sure that the international reputation of his government is somehow seen to be in concord with human rights legislation and human rights procedure, and he can go on his jollies to the continent. So it's a completely ridiculous framing. I think it's going to cause Keir Starmer a lot of pain in the coming years because this simply won't work. And I hope when a centre-right government comes in 2029, the first thing they do is rip up this, say, no, we don't need to do any deals with France. We're going to deport every single illegal migrant in this country on our own. We're going to sort this out and return them to their countries of origin or a third country.
Well, let's have a quick look at the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, talking about what she calls the migrant pilot scheme, which to you and I is it's the euphemistically called one in, one out. It's actually sort of 17 in, one out, if you're lucky. So we're going to take, for every 17 migrants, we will try to send one back. So it's not really one in, one out. I've said it before, I'm sure I've said it to you, Robert, but I've placed a series of bets on this. I don't think we will, this country, Britain, Keir, Yvette, will ever deport a single migrant under the one in, one out scheme because the immigration lawyers are already rubbing their hands. They can't wait to get to grips with this because they're going to go, first of all, you just randomly chose my client out of 17 people. That's not fair. That's just not fair. Any judge will back that up, and if they don't, they will then resort to their usual default setting, which is the human rights case. It will be a human rights claim lodged, and it says in this deal that if they lodge a human rights claim, then that case has to proceed fully through the courts. That'll take years. So we won't get anyone out, but it is self-evidently not working. But here's Yvette Cooper talking about it.
Well, we'll provide regular updates for the public at every stage. That's why I'm confirming today that the pilot has now started and the first migrants who arrived on small boat are now in detention. The transfers to immigration removal centres are underway as we speak, so we won't provide operational details at this point that criminal gangs can simply use and exploit.
Well, bold words from Ms. Cooper, but as I say, already absolutely clear that this is not working. And incredibly, this is my favourite kind of event of the last couple of days. It has been put to Downing Street. Well, you know, you were going on about the one in, one out scheme, or whatever happened to the Smash the Gangs initiative. They say, because of course that's failed. Downing Street is officially denying that the strategy of Smash the Gangs has failed. They say it has not failed. I mean, where are they getting that idea? We are 1 year and 1 month into Smash the Gangs. We've got the Border Security Command, which at my estimation, the government has invested something like, I'm trying to think about it, getting on for £300 million in. You know, several moments where they've been given 100 million for drones, for state-of-the-art surveillance equipment, recruitment, and so on and so forth. So about every 3 or 4 months, you know, performatively, this government chucks another 100 million or 200 million at the Border Security Command in order to smash the gangs. They have not smashed a single gang, and yet they're saying this strategy has not failed. It has, hasn't it?
This is what I believe is a comms death pivot. They're hoping that everyone will forget as if somehow Keir Starmer never mentioned those words, smash the gangs, because of course it patently failed. We know that it patently failed. All it really amounted to was Keir Starmer and his government being able to pop a couple of dinghies that were in a Bulgarian warehouse and have a few press conferences with European prime ministers and presidents. It was never something that was measurable. There was no KPI as to when we could finally know, yes, the gangs have finally been smashed, we can rest easy. It was something that there was a completely nebulous actual metric. And of course, anyone with any common sense would tell you, given the sheer amount of money that is involved in these small boats crossings, that if you are able to somehow manage to arrest a significant number of people involved in these gangs, other people will just arrive in their place. And of course they will, because the criminal underworld thrives on those profit margins and the risk to payoff ratio. And there was such a small chance of individuals actually being scuppered by these plans that it was never going to kick off. So they now are putting all their eggs in this one in, one out basket. You can see it on Yvette Cooper's face. She's acting very serious, and we're going to be given regular updates, which I suppose we should all be grateful for, because they're so confident in this. This is what they're trying to convey. They're so confident that this is going to deliver huge results, and we're going to see thousands of people return to France, that the British public deserve to be kept up to date. This is complete smoke and mirrors. This is something that the Labour government have really, over the last 12 months, showed a real capability of doing. It's the press conferences, it's the, we're taking down Facebook adverts, we're criminalising we're making it illegal to bring in an individual to this country illegally, despite it already being against the law. This is a complete waste of time, and we need to actually really focus on what we can do to stop these small boats. And I'm tired of saying it, is to implement a very strong deterrent that would make hundreds of thousands of people that are looking at Britain as a soft touch saying, I'm not taking my chances by going there because I know there's a very real risk of me being deported. The Labour Party haven't even mentioned the word of a deterrent really with this scheme. They are completely going down the wrong path, and I'm really, really concerned about the numbers that we're going to see, not just this year, but in next year, the year after, and for the rest of this Parliament.
Yeah, well, just to reiterate what I said at the beginning of this conversation, you know, it's supposed to be a deterrent, and it came in last Wednesday. And here we are, not even a week later. And since it came in, since it became operational, this deterrent has not deterred anyone. Considerably more than 2,000 migrants have crossed the Channel in 6 days. Ergo, one in, one out, already demonstrably, palpably has failed. It's just failed. It is not a deterrent. End of. Forget it.
And the really interesting thing that the data does show is we have occasionally seen dips in the small boats crossings when the weather has been unfavourable for those crossings to take place. But we're actually now seeing individuals cross on days when the weather is a bit tempestuous and a bit less conducive to actually making that small boats crossing. So it would seem from the moment this plan was announced, actually, we've got now a new breed of problem. We've got actually crossings taking place on days what are sort of those more stormy days when we would see numbers either drop to zero or very low digits. They're now making crossings on those days as well. And of course, the real problem here is the existing illegal migrant population is a huge factor in this. We have individuals communicating across all social medias, saying to their friends, saying to their families, saying to their extended family, yeah, it's very easy, it's very conducive. Here's the number of someone that you should get in touch with and you'll be able to live a life of Riley. This is something that is only being exacerbated and being compounded by the existing problem that the Conservative government oversaw. Labour are not going anywhere near addressing these root causes and actually even looking at those that are currently in the asylum system and deporting them either. That's not being touched on by this one in, one out strategy.
And by the way, just before we go to break, Yvette Cooper said she was going to make it illegal to place adverts for migrant crossings, small boat crossings on social media. If you take, I did a story with Isabel Oakeshott yesterday. If you take a look at TikTok, it is a massive adverts, you know, with all the pictures of boats and the routes that you take from the Middle East or Africa, how you get there, how you get to Calais and the cost from Calais to Dover and so on and so forth. It is a mass of these commercials. So that doesn't seem to be working anyway. Perhaps if they want to smash the gangs, perhaps they could sort of go undercover. There you go. This, if anybody's watching, these are the adverts. This is one of the adverts. There's your boat going across. Like, they don't actually tend to have sails, but it's nice and optical, I suppose. It looks good. Rather than sort of banning these adverts, why don't the ace agents of the Border Security Command sort of answer a few, go undercover? Maybe then they could catch some of these people and, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Smash the gangs? Might be a start, mightn't it?
And actually do something. I mean, there's been a litany of independent journalists that have actually been getting in touch with these people smugglers, contacting them as a result of these adverts and passing the details on. Nothing ever seems to actually take place as a result of this. And what we really need to see is a counter marketing push on this. We need to have those images of people that have entered the country illegally being put onto the plane and the plane taking off. That is an optic that will really resonate, and we've never actually seen that properly and effectively delivered by any government. Of course, the last government, Rwanda plan, we actually had the plane being grounded, which is really a metaphor for how this situation has been handled by both parties, both main parties, since it kicked off. But these kind of images that we're seeing on our scene is probably just a fraction of it. And of course, you also have these individuals filming themselves selfie style in their 4-star hotels, filming the buffets that they get given, filming out of the windows of the lovely surroundings that they're being put up in as well. So it's an absolute proliferation, and this is something that really the pull factors and the soft touch that Britain has become has enabled to be delivered en masse to those that are thinking about coming to the country.
The adverts we're looking at now, I mean, they are full of phone numbers, they're full of price rates, they're full of pickup points, as I say, various routes from various parts of the world. They are completely comprehensive and blatant and shameless. And we don't seem to be doing anything about it. It's unbelievable. So much for Yvette Cooper banning these adverts. They continue apace. Listen, Robert, we're going to go to break now. When we come back, we're going to be talking about universal credit, which is very worrying in its entirety. But the migrant aspect of this, the foreign nationals, the number of foreign nationals now claiming universal credit, is a source of great concern. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
I can speak personally as a mum, as a grandmother to 2 young children of just 3 and a year and a half, and it worries the life out of me. What sort of world are we bringing our children into? I don't even feel safe anymore working late in my own office. I used to work until sometimes 9 or 10 at night. Now I go when my staff leave because I don't feel safe on the streets, and that's in Gravesend.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with the Director for the Centre for Migration Control, Robert Bates. Robert, I want to talk about universal credit. Now, alarmingly, the total number of universal credit claimants in this country has hit a record high, 8 million. That's compared to 6.9 million this time last year. And something like 3.7 million of them have been signed off work forever. So you've got the best part of 4 million are getting universal credit for the rest of their lives. They never have to work. 8 million generally. Universal credit, of course, is a benefit welfare payment that you can get even if you are in work. You cannot be in work sometimes, but if you've got work and you're not earning enough, it's supposed to help you. Now, I do believe that the excellent Centre for Migration Control has dug deep into these figures, so this is all down to you. Excellent work yet again. You have unearthed that amid these already shocking figures, 1 million, well, but let's just round it up, it's 1298, 1,300,000 foreign nationals are claiming universal credit. And that astronomical figure includes 174,299 people with refugee or humanitarian status. In other words, asylum seekers waiting for a decision. A further 214,000 claimants have indefinite leave to remain, so they can stay here forever, but they're claiming it as well. So these are successful asylum seekers. So my point about this, and by the way, this time 2 years ago, foreign nationals claiming universal credit amounted to 928,000 thereabouts. So it's alarmingly up on what it was 2 years ago. And effectively what this adds up to is asylum seekers come here, you know, we put them in these hotels, we give them 50 quid a week, we give them free food, free lawyers, free dentists, free doctors, etc., etc. So we pay for everything. We completely underwrite their lives. They don't have to pay for anything. British taxpayers fund their entire existences. So now then they get to the point where they qualify for benefits. Sometimes they get to the point where they're allowed to stay indefinitely. And it turns out that we continue to pay for these people because many of them don't work. They just claim benefits and they get universal credit for the rest of their lives. So these people are coming to this country. The word must go around in Syria and Eritrea and Afghanistan and all these places. It must be, hey, you want to get yourself to Britain. It's amazing. Because you get there and then the British citizens, they just pay for you for the rest of your life. It's amazing. I mean, this is what's going on. It's just breathtaking.
That is exactly what's happening, Kevin. It is an absolutely crazy state of affairs. And I think now that the DWP have kind of been pushed kicking and screaming into actually having to publish these numbers by immigration status, and we are able to see the number of refugees, so-called refugees, and those on humanitarian routes that are actually claiming universal credit, we can see those hidden costs that were associated with the illegal migration crisis that have for too long kind of been, once an individual's had their asylum application approved, they've kind of been pushed in to the general populace, and their benefit claims and their dependency on the state has been hidden within the overall welfare bill. When it comes to foreign nationals as a whole, we're probably looking at a bill of between 11 and 15 billion pounds every single year now, just paying to people that are not even citizens of our own country, and not even British citizens. And the question has to be asked, what do we actually get for this money? Effectively, we are paying to individuals to come here and live a life of rally. I think it's an incredibly lopsided deal. Of course, it's all being done, and these kind of settled status positions that are being held by these individuals are given for the sake of integration and to make these individuals feel like they're a part of society. But I would argue that if they're coming to this country and then they are not making any economic contribution, then they really should not have the right to stay here indefinitely, because British people across the country are facing huge pressures at the moment on their household budgets. It really is inexcusable for us to be having to pay for 1.3 million citizens of other nations to also live here. When it comes to the asylum seekers as well, we also need to recognise that once they've had their cases approved, the economic participation rate of so-called refugees is woefully low. It's between 30 and 40% of those that actually are given refugee status actually go on to work, and many of them are working in incredibly low-wage, low-skilled jobs. So this idea that somehow we should actually, and this is actually something that you do hear from the open border advocates, the idea that refugees are somehow bringing their skills and bringing assets to this country that we simply are lacking and in short supply of, is absolutely for the birds. And I think these figures show it. The proportion of refugees and those on humanitarian routes that are actually claiming universal credit is a fifth or more of those that are actually on that route. And this is something that we simply can't sustain. But so long as those boats keep coming, so long as we keep approving about 50% of applications, we will continue to see that number grow, and we will continue to see more money being taken out of the back pockets of hardworking British men and women to pay for these individuals to live a life of rally. It is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, so the headline here is, it's bad enough that we have to spend billions and billions and billions funding these people when they're seeking asylum, when they put their application in to be able to stay here. As you say, a ludicrous number of them are approved, 50%. It used to be worse than that. It used to be up in the 70%. We let more migrants, more asylum seekers stay than any other country in the world, significantly more. So we're a soft touch. But the headline, as I say, is British people thought, we have to pay for them while they're waiting for their asylum decision. When they are allowed to stay, off they go into society, join the British community and go off to work, and then they start paying for themselves. Well, the headline here, as I say, is oh no, they don't. Many of them, well, more than 1 million of them here, we continue to pay for. It's jaw-dropping.
I think, and the argument always seems to be, and this is something that you do genuinely see people that believe that we should be doing more and taking more asylum seekers, is, well, these people have skills that we simply don't have in Britain. Well, we now have actual government data which shows that hundreds of thousands of them are doing very little apart from posing a long-term cost on the British public. I would argue that actually it's equally egregious that we have a very large number of people that normally came here to work or to make some form of economic contribution, that once they've hit that 5-year point and been given settled status, they've decided to actually really sack off making any contribution to the countries that they've decided to move to, and instead just to begin to become a burden on the state. We also need to look at what's coming down the track. Of course, under the Boris Johnson government, we saw large numbers of people coming on very low-skilled, low-wage routes. They, in 5 years' time, will begin to become eligible for benefits as well, and thus the rate will...
It's a nightmare, Robert. It's a nightmare, but always good to speak to you. Thank you so much for your time. Robert Bates there, Director for the Centre of Migration Control. Layla Cunningham for Reform Next. Stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. A very hot day today. Very hot day. You look after yourselves out there. Be very, very careful. It's an amber weather warning. Anyone know what an amber weather warning is? Nah, me neither. Anyone care? Me neither. It's a nice day. Enjoy it. It's a heat wave. Enjoy it. Don't listen to the doom mongers. Honestly. Oh, it's a hot day. You're all going to die. Shut up. Just shut up. I'm so sick of that lot. Right, let's get back to the show, shall we? In about half an hour, Isabel Oakeshott, a friend of the show, will be joining us. I'm billing it as an emergency appearance. He doesn't usually come on Tuesday, but I think there's quite a few things to discuss. I want to talk to her about universal credit, and I want to talk to her about the migrant crisis, which is self-evidently spiralling dangerously, alarmingly out of control. Hundreds of them coming over today, more than 2,000 in the last 6 days. And now we learn that way over 1 million foreign nationals, no doubt many of them arrived by that method, are now claiming universal credit, some of them for life and never to work. What is going on, folks? So we'll talk to Isabel in about half an hour, and also after that I'll be taking your calls. Get your calls in. Big day, I think. 03444 991 in the meantime, for the next half an hour or so, I'm very pleased to welcome back to the show. And because sort of claiming some credit, we were one of the first to highlight this rising star of reform. She came across from the Tories. She's still a Westminster City Councillor. I suspect she might be going higher than that in the political ladder. A warm welcome to Layla Cunningham. Hello, Layla.
Hi, Kevin.
Good to see you again. Now, before we talk, because I want to talk to you about what Sarah Poshin, your Reform UK colleague, has been saying about the danger posed to women, and I would say children as well, by men who come to this country, young men, thousands of young men, about whom we know nothing, who come to this country from cultures with very different attitudes to both women and children. So this is Sarah talking about this, and then I'll get your take on it.
So I think what we were highlighting is when you commit an offence in England, you have a criminal record. If you commit a sexual offence in England, you go on a sexual offenders list. And we have no idea if these men are criminals or not. We have no idea of their history. And that unknown presents a massive risk. And that unknown, any government that's serious about protecting its people should consider that unknown when they place people. Instead, our government has done the reverse and decided to place them in the middle of towns and villages, right by schools and children. I'm not saying they're all rapists or murderers, but we don't know. We have to live with our past and our history, rightly so. They don't. They get a clean slate.
OK, well, listen, let's have a listen to Sarah Poshin on the same topic. Take it away, Sarah.
To stop being in denial about the effect of this culture coming into this country, and it is the culture of Islam, who have absolutely no regard for the value of women. So these men coming in on these boats, 800 to 1,000 a week, 26,000 this year alone, have a totally different view, a medieval view. And I've said that.
And what do the lefties, what do the women's libs lot, you know, whatever, you know, and he said the wrong thing. What do they say when you say that? You're a racist, are you? They
don't. Well, they call me a racist, but they're far more interested in standing outside Parliament this weekend and demonstrating about in support of Palestine Action Group or whatever. I'm not being funny, but no matter that.
Well, Layla, there's Sarah making the point that she believes that men, particularly from Muslim countries, from the Islamic culture, what she says have a medieval attitude to women. And I think an understated element of this alarming rise of asylum seeker crimes, particularly asylum seeker sex crime, is yes, women are getting raped, women and girls, but there's a lot of paedophile rape involved as well. Children are getting raped. So they come over, as Sarah says, perhaps with medieval views about women, but also about children. And we don't know anything about them. This sex crime element, indeed violent crimes as well, serious crimes being allegedly committed by more and more asylum seekers, is a real national crisis, isn't it?
It's a national emergency. To be honest, anyone who's a paedophile or a rapist is medieval, right? Kind of irrelevant what religion they are, where they're from. Paedophiles and rapists are psychopaths. And I think, yes, of course, some of them come and have absolutely no respect for women, because I think most of them do. I don't know them, but there are cultures in the Middle East, where I'm from, and there are also cultures in Muslim countries where there is no respect for women. But that's more, I think I would attribute that more to tradition. But you know, there are extreme views and radical Islamists who also have that view, and there is a difference, I think, between moderate Muslims like myself, and there is a radical Islamist side to Islam, which is very dangerous, and I think it has been a real failure on both parties to call it out. Yeah,
well, I think I should have pointed out that, of course, you're a Muslim, but you know, I don't get too nationalistic about this, but there can often be a big difference between a Western Muslim and a Muslim from a country, and I'm talking about young men in particular, from a country where you're not even allowed to see the big toe of a woman. I note that in Afghanistan recently there's a new fashion, unbelievably, for cyclops burqas. So that you can't even see both eyes, just one eye. So these men, these young men of sexually active age, are coming over from these countries where they're not even allowed to see any part of a woman, and they get to Britain where, quite rightly, British women dress exactly how they want to, and it can be a provocative cocktail, if you see what I mean.
It's a danger. They pose a massive danger, and they should not be in the middle of society. It is mad that any government thinks that is a safe way to operate. It's actually a dereliction of duty, Kevin, right? You have no idea who these men are. If you know that someone's a serial rapist, you will not place them next to a school if you're housing them. How do we know they're not? Yet the government completely blindly places in the middle of villages and towns. What government does that? No other government does that, by the way. Only ours. They're all housed in detention centres in European countries.
Indeed, I mean it's extraordinary. And as extraordinary. The most worrying thing is, and I keep saying this, but you know, we just have this policy where people turn up on our south coast in these small boats, and we just let everybody in. We don't really ask them any questions. So we've got thousands and thousands and thousands of young men, mostly young men of sexually active age, arriving on our shores about whom we know nothing. Sarah Poachin said, they're coming in at the rate of about 800 to 1,000 a week. In the last 6 days, something like 2,300 have come across. So 800 to 1,000 is optimistic. More than 2,000 in the last 6 days, and still they come, and we know nothing about them. They don't get asked any questions. We just let them into our country, and as you say,
we welcome them in. We don't let them in. We welcome them in. We're like, come in. It's an all-inclusive stay. We pay for your hotels. You get some pocket money. We pay for your food. If you commit a crime, don't worry. We'll provide a taxpayer-funded lawyer for you. And I don't know if you saw, but the first Deliveroo drivers were prosecuted that were working illegally, and he got a
£26 fine.
And you know why, Kevin? Because they told the magistrates he's got a clean criminal record. Right? How the hell do we know that?
Okay, that brings me on nicely to something I want to get your comment on. We're talking about the judiciary and the fact that we seem to have an increasingly liberal judiciary who kind of take what you might call the Guardian reader view of life. So let me ask you what you think about this particular case. This is about a migrant. We don't know whether he is an asylum seeker. He's a Nigerian man, a guy called Ayomide Famakindi. He's 23. He was found guilty of a sexual assault on a 19-year-old girl in the troubled seaside town of Bournemouth. Now, I've got to stress there's no evidence that he was at any of these increasingly controversial Bournemouth asylum seeker hotels. It says he's from South London, but he approached this 19-year-old girl in the seaside town, basically sexually assaulted her, and she ignored her shouts to stop and carried on until, luckily, his friend pulled him off. Anyway, he went to court for this, and this is today. He was given a community order. He was spared jail because the judge ruled that this offence was, I'm quoting now, a momentary aberration, and the defendant deserved sympathy because he had a very troubled background and difficult life. What about the 19-year-old girl who he has probably traumatised for life?
Kevin, and that's what I saw in court a lot. They take the criminal's point of view. And how can we help the criminal? How can we see it from their view as opposed to the victim's view? There's no justice for victims sometimes. How does that woman feel? I've seen it many times.
Because you're a criminal lawyer, of course, aren't you?
Yeah. You know, as a prosecutor, you know, the defense lawyer would come in and say, my client has ADHD or my client has, you know, depression. And these things are taken into consideration in mitigation for reducing their sentence.
It's
disgusting. It's just, I would like to see a victim's charter. I would like to see where you will leave this court and you will feel that the government has your back and that you've got justice. That's not what victims are feeling right now.
The prosecutor, a guy called Mike Mason, said that this guy, without warning, put his hand around her waist and then put his hand into the back of her jogging bottoms. And while she's tried to stop him, it was quite late at night. This guy had to go to jail. You can't... I mean, what about her? What about her? Never mind his troubled background and difficult life. A lot of people have troubled backgrounds and difficult lives. They don't go around committing sexual assault. They don't go around traumatising poor 19-year-old girls.
And that's why we want tougher sentencing and policing across the board when it comes to sexual assault. Look, people are saying that we you know, there's no denying that British men also commit sexual crimes, right? Across the board, whether it's a migrant or a British man, we need tougher sentencing when it comes to sexual assault on women. That's not happening right now. And that's how you have to protect women. Men have to pay for that. Women are not, you know, they're not a free gift that you can choose, you know, to take whenever you want. No, and there has to be punishment for that. I've had cases where migrants who, you know, don't speak English, just arrived, have followed women with their, you know, masturbating. And some of them have come to court and said, you know, I have a medical condition. I have to have my penis out. Believe it or not.
So the recorder in this court case, a guy called Nicholas Hagan, KC, said, this is to the guy who committed the sexual assault, the Nigerian migrant. I accept evidence that you have matured significantly in the 3-year period since the offences and have not committed any further offences. He goes on to say, I am satisfied it was a momentary aberration when you were intoxicated. It is an offence I am, I hope, confident will not be repeated. Taking into account your very troubled background and difficult life you have had, I am confident you would benefit from a community-based order. What a comfort that must be for the poor girl.
Can I just comment on that?
Yes, please.
Did you notice how the judgment said it happened 3 years ago? It took 3 years
good point.
For that case to come to court, and this is what you're seeing all the time, and that's such a typical judgment where they say, you know what, it's been 3 years, you haven't committed anything since, you look like you're rehabilitated. And the way that hack works is if it's an either way offence, that's an either way offence, which means the defendant can choose either the magistrates or the Crown Court. He chose the Crown Court because it wouldn't have taken so long, because he knew it would take so long, right? He was hoping either the victim would pull out, the CPS would say it's no longer in the public interest to prosecute, or the judge will be like, so much time has passed, we're not gonna barely do anything about it. And by the way, when you're waiting for trial, all your deportation matters are stayed.
Yeah. Exactly right. Yeah, it's a good way of staying.
3 years.
It's just ridiculous.
What would 3 years? She had to testify 3 years later, go through it all again, live through those three years. It's such a long time, and then only to have that at the end. It's disgusting.
And this guy, as I say, at some point in his life, he was a migrant. He was an asylum seeker. And as you say, he gets to stay because he's got to wait 3 years for this case.
Exactly.
And now he's basically been completely let off by what I would describe as a soft-touch judge who ought to get real. Before we go to break, Layla, what would reform do about this sort of thing? What would you do about crime and punishment?
So we would deport all if you commit a crime in this country, you will be deported. You cannot come to this country and commit a crime. That's unacceptable. And there won't be a choice in the matter. And we're going to use foreign, if the country doesn't want to take them back, we will deport them to other prisons. But it can't be a soft touch approach. I don't know if you saw by the government's new announcement that said, if you're here illegally or something, you will be deported as soon as possible. Have you seen that? It makes me quake in my boots. ASAP. No, you will be deported immediately upon arrival.
Yeah. And Shabana Mahmood, the Justice Secretary, it looked quite good at first. She said from now on, as soon as foreign nationals, be they migrants or asylum seekers, are convicted or found guilty of serious crimes, including sexual crimes, crimes of violence, drug dealing, etc., they will be deported immediately. And then you look at
provided health and safety rules, and as soon as possible.
Yeah, and also most of them will be. There will be exceptions. Prison governors will be able to decide whether or not people should be deported. It's a typical Labour announcement that looks quite good on the at first glance, but the more you go into it, it's just wishy-washy.
But Kevin, you could always deport criminals. There was the Borders Act in 2007. So many times in my court, I had overstayers or people that immigration wanted to deport and wanted me to detain. But there is no connect. CPS don't work with immigration. So no one in immigration was ever in my court to pick that person up, right? And the CPS is like, we can't remand someone in custody for immigration. So you can't ask for someone to be remanded in custody. So they get away with it. But I get an email from immigration saying, this person's an overstayer. Please, can you ask the judge to remand him in custody? But I can't, because remanding in custody is a test. It's the Bail Act. You can't just remand them for reasons. And not once does anyone from immigration show up. They work in silos.
It's institutional incoherence, isn't it? It's an absolute shambles. Listen, let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to talk about your friend Sadiq Khan. How's that for you? Stick around, Layla.
you know, I can speak personally as a mum, as a grandmother to 2 young children of just 3 and a year and a half. And it worries the life out of me. What sort of world are we bringing our children into? You know, I don't even feel safe anymore working late in my own office. I used to work until sometimes 9 or 10 at night. Now I go when my staff leave because I don't feel safe on the streets, and that's in Gravesend.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with Westminster City Councillor, Reform UK's new rising star, Layla Cunningham. Layla, before we talk, let's screen one of your high points where you ambushed the London Mayor, Sadiq Khan, to quiz him on London's soaring crime rate, particularly knife crime. Let's just watch this.
Mr. Khan, I'm a Westminster City Councillor. I just wanted to ask you on your thoughts on knife crime going up by 60% in the past 2 years. No, this is the Met thing. Knife crime, 60% up, and you don't care. Nothing to say? Nothing to say? Nothing to say about knife crime going up? 81,000 phones stolen? Nothing, you don't care?
If you want to write in.
If you want to write in, they say. Great.
Well, that went viral. Very good work by you, Layla. Now, today, Sadiq Khan, or sorry, I've actually got a policy on this show. We never call him Sir Sadiq, because he doesn't really deserve to be knighted, unless it was for services to knife crime. But anyway, Sadiq Khan has been accused of gaslighting the public because he's actually posted on social media all these figures, these stats that indicate, oh, crime is really coming under control. He's talking about theft from personal robbery has dropped 19%, residential burglary down 10%, 13%. Lots of these particular aspects of crime have gone down, or a few have gone down. Now, to which the founder of the Public Safety Foundation, a guy called Rory Giagan, he has posted, for completeness, the Mayor of London chose not to reveal, buried in these figures, the fact that gun crime has gone up by 18%, rape has gone up by 9%, sexual offences are up by 11%, business robberies are up by 38%, theft from the person up 12%, and shoplifting is up 38%. So what Sadiq Khan has done is he's chosen a couple of sort of 2 or 3 halfway encouraging stats and ignored all the rest. I mean, that's kind of a form of lying, really, isn't it?
It's real deception, and it's really insulting to victims of crime in London. And he tweeted on X that these results are good but not good enough, and now he's going to focus on visible policing. Really? He gutted visible policing. There is no more visible policing. And just under his watch, so I think that the stats he mentioned cover about 3 months. Since he's come to... So knife crime right now has peaked. It's the highest it's ever been. Theft against person has doubled since 2016, and that's the one reported. Robbery is up 60 to 70%. I just want to explain to your viewers the difference between theft against person and robbery. Theft is when you steal someone without any violence. Robbery is theft with violence. That has gone up 60 to 70%. Shoplifting is off the charts, and it's so corrosive to communities, and it's destroying our high streets. And actually, London has the highest knife crime of any city in Europe. And he has
16,344 knife crimes were recorded by the Metropolitan Police and City of London Police in the 12 months to March. That's compared with 14,939 the year before. So it is rocketing. Knife crime is rocketing. Why do you think, Layla, in view of that, that the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, the boss of the police, Sir Mark Rowley, actually said on August the 1st, London is a really safe place to live and work. Why would he say that?
Because he has to defend his job, right? Him and Sadiq Khan are in charge of the police, and Sadiq Khan is the ultimate boss of the police, and that's what people must realise. It falls on him. And he has failed London abysmally, and they don't have the guts to admit it. And it really actually makes me very angry. It's so insulting to victims. My family are victims of crime. I think most Londoners know or have suffered a form of crime under Sadiq Khan's watch. I feel like every year that he is mayor, crime gets worse. And he's so focused, Kevin, on taxing motorists. Ooh, he gets that job done, right? We all know that if we don't pay our ULEZ, we're going to get charged double the following day. Why do we not have a laser focus on knife crime? Why are hotspots not flooded with police? One of the articles named some streets that have a much higher level of hotspots. Why is there not a task force? Why is there not an elite force like there is to censor us, focused on knife crime? They don't care.
He's too busy.
Gallivanting to Nigeria, but you don't, while people are dying on the streets.
Well, he plunges himself into the nice, safe, first resort of the two-bit politician talking about clean air and climate change. So, he's going to make this, because it's nebulous. You can never actually calculate whether or not anyone's done any good when it comes to clean air. So it's a very easy topic for the not very good politician to obsess on. So that's what he does. I'm making the air clean. I'm making the air clean, which of course is mainly just a technique to nick a load of money off of motorists. And also, I'm all for clean air and all that, but apart from about 10 years when I lived in Los Angeles, I've always lived in London. And, to be honest with you, LA, London, if I was obsessed with clean air, I wouldn't be living in London. I wouldn't live in Los Angeles. So he miscalculates what people are really interested in about living in London. Clean air, fine, but how about not getting killed? Not getting stabbed, not having your phone stolen. Phone gets stolen, I think it's literally every minute in this city. He doesn't do anything about that.
Nothing. Not only that, it's not that he doesn't do anything. He does the opposite of action. So he's cutting all police from the royal parks in November. His manifesto promise was to have an open police counter in every borough. They've halved, and he's cutting more away. It's almost like as crime increases, he decreases police. It's an inverse for him. It really is shocking.
And hasn't he got hundreds of people at Transport for London earning more than £200,000 a year? And I have to use the tube all the time. Have you noticed, by the way, I don't know if you use the Underground very much, but they're starting to get like New York subway trains, huge graffiti all over them, quite colourful actually, but not very London. So the TfL is supposed to be in charge of London Transport. The transport's getting worse and worse and worse, but lots of people working there are on £200,000 a year or more. We're paying for that. That's a disgrace.
A disgrace. And how much is his staff budget? I think it's gone up by over 30%. What's he paying on his PR budget? Yeah. Ideally, I'd like to go line by line through his budget, and he can tell me where he can take money and put it to police resources, because frankly, that is the number one priority for Londoners. We don't care about some trade deal. Why is he in Nigeria? Why did he travel to Nigeria a few weeks ago? He's a London mayor. Sort London out.
Didn't he travel to America to investigate legalising cannabis? That's a good use of of our tax money, isn't it? It's really good, really useful.
And then, by the way, when I ambushed him, that's supposed to be what you call a walkabout, where politicians walk the streets and expect to, speak to the public. He had 20 deep security detail right? So while the rest of us walk and suffer the consequences of his lawless London, he gets a big security detail, bulletproof Range Rovers, and has the audacity to tell us we're imagining it.
Unbelievable. By the way, I've got the numbers on that. The Transport for London gravy train, 2,200 staff who work for Transport for London for Sadiq Khan earn £100,000 a year or more. We're being conned, aren't we? They're taking our money and just dividing it between themselves.
And they don't care. How can you not? How can you care so little for people that voted you in?
I don't know. Anyway, you've got to take him on. Are you going to be the candidate for reform for the next London mayoral election?
I'll go where I'm asked.
You'd be ideal. Come on. You'd like to do it, wouldn't you?
You know what I'd really like to do? I'd like to debate him. I'd like to debate Khan, but actually I think he should debate Nigel because Nigel's asked him for a debate. If I was a mayor, really proud of my record, knew the stats and knew that I'm doing so well, I would welcome a debate from the leader of the opposition, reform.
Okay.
But no, he has not even responded because what's he going to come and say?
Well, I think that both you and Nigel, metaphorically in a debate, would kill him. And that's why he's too scared to accept Nigel's challenge and maybe implicitly your challenge. Now, you can have loads of debates with him, maybe, if you stood to be the mayor of London. Come on, you'd be interested in doing that, wouldn't you?
I don't know. Is he standing, Kevin?
Well, I would imagine he will. Anyway, whether or not it's him, Layla...
No, I don't know. I don't know, Kevin. Listen, I haven't made my mind up. I haven't been asked, by the way. This is all rumours that were started online and by the press. Listen, it would be an absolute honour to
do that. Because I'll tell you why.
It's my city. It's my home. I'm raising my kids. I was born here. I work here.
Yeah, that's why there's a lot of speculation, because you're such an ideal candidate. And if Sadiq Khan does stand again, that we could cling on to a little slither of hope that finally we could get rid of this pipsqueak who has ruined once the greatest city in the world. I still think it kind of is, but if he's in charge for much longer, it won't be the greatest city in the world, right?
Right, no, I agree. But Kevin, so I had about 6 million, more than 6 million views, right? And I read, I read through the comments, some of them. There wasn't one positive comment about him. I mean, how many people in London? About 6 million. I don't know how he gets voted in.
I'll tell you why. I think you've got some idea of this, because people think of London as this, this metropolis full of, millionaires and very rich people going to flash restaurants and living in incredible houses and all that. But actually, the majority of people in London aren't very well off, and it is a tough city to live in if you're poor. And therefore Sadiq Khan appeals to them. He has, a blatant kind of smash the rich, hate motorists, kind of approach to politics. He's an old school socialist, hates the rich, loves the poor. That's why he wins.
But he drives around, isn't he sponsored by BlackRock or Blackstone, and then he drives around in a Range Rover? That's not very
I think he's got a fleet of 3, hasn't he?
Yeah, exactly.
He famously once took his dogs to Battersea Park for a walk on I think it was a Sunday morning, and arrived in his blacked out window Range Rover, flanked by 2 more, like an American sort of political convoy.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and by the way...
Well, he tells us to take a bike.
Yeah. I was going to say that convoy of Range Rovers really good for the environment. Yeah. What a hypocrite. Layla, I've got to go, but really great to talk to you. Come on again soon, and I will vote for you if you stand for mayor. How's that? Is that a deal?
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin.
All right, Layla, great to talk. Take care. Layla Cunningham there, Westminster City Councillor. We will go to break straight away because, I billed this as an emergency appearance by our friend Isabel Oakeshott. We've got to talk about the migrant crisis. We've got to talk about the universal credit scandal. So stick around. Isabel next.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight to my next guest. She's been waiting patiently. It's Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. As I say, this is an emergency appearance. Thanks for joining us, Isabel.
Well, the situation is an emergency. I don't think that is any exaggeration. And yet this government just doesn't seem to understand that. It doesn't seem to recognise that. And, you know, on their shoulders it will be when something horrible happens. And I really am increasingly worried about that. I don't want to be alarmist about it, but it's quite obvious that if you keep on allowing this situation to happen, either somebody who we don't know about comes into the country with terrible intent, or something happens on our side as somebody irresponsible and awful finally snaps at the spectre of this and does something terrible. And that is what I worry about. And you know what, privately, that is what MPs are also getting increasingly concerned about, but apparently not Labour MPs. Otherwise, I don't know why Keir Starmer still hasn't got the message.
Well, we talked about this last night, but it bears repeating because we've got new figures. So last Wednesday is when 1 in, 1 out started. That's when the Prime Minister's brilliant swap a foreigner scheme with France became operational. The idea being that if migrants coming across the Channel face a 6% chance of being sent back, 1 in 17, that will be a deterrent. They'll go, oh, I'm not risking that. And we all went, well, it doesn't seem to be that much of a deterrent. It sounds like a roll of the dice to me. And indeed, that is clearly what the reaction to 1 in, 1 out has been from our friends who gather in their thousands on the north coast of France around Calais, the migrants who are going to get into small boats. So the scheme came into play last 6th of August, Wednesday. That day alone, 155. The following day, Thursday, 248. August the 8th, that's Friday, day off then, nobody came across then. Saturday, 435. Sunday, 281. Yesterday, check it, 474. And I am reliably informed that today, many hundreds more have come over. So in the 6 days, not the whole week, in the 6 days since Keir Starmer's bold new deterrent came into play, the 1 in, 1 out scheme, more than 2,000, considerably more than 2,000 migrants have not been deterred at all from crossing the Channel. Already, this scheme is a non-starter. It doesn't work. It is not a deterrent. There it is, self-evident, palpably not working. End of.
Why are these people so thick? Why don't they understand that just announcing that you might have a tiny chance of being returned is not going to put people off? These people are fundamentally risk takers. You know that if anything, they are the greatest risk takers of their own populations. You know, these are people who have crossed continents to get with a dream of getting to the UK. You know, when you look on a map at the journeys they've made, they are very elaborate. They've been through multiple countries in multiple different modes of travel, and they finally get to Calais, and they've got the vision in their mind. They've seen all the TikTok adverts showing just how much we give them when they get here. It's basically not even a chance to win the lottery, because basically you're guaranteed the jackpot if you come to the UK. So why aren't they going to carry on taking that risk? You know, they calculate that the chances of them not winning the jackpot are pretty minor, really. I would do it. I'd roll the dice, wouldn't you, Kev?
Yeah,
I mean,
they've got a 94% chance of succeeding under this scheme. And by the way, that is only on the assumption that we ever get a single migrant out of this country under the terms of this dismal deal between Starmer and Macron, because, you know, the lawyers are fully able, their lawyers, their immigration lawyers, are fully able to cite their human rights, lodge a human rights case under the ECHR, and Starmer has agreed that in those circumstances, those cases must proceed fully through the courts. That will take years. So every single migrant that we do choose, 1 in 17, first of all, how are they going to do that? It's just random and unfair. OK, we choose one. Their lawyers will first of all go, hey, that's not fair. Why are you choosing my client? Any judge will go, you're right, that isn't fair. But on the off chance the judge does say, oh, well, you know, never mind that, their lawyer will then say, well, I am claiming that this deportation is against my client's human rights. Ergo, you can't deport him. You've got to wait until this goes through the courts. That'll take about 2 years. It's ridiculous.
Completely ridiculous. And you know what? I mean, it's hardly a secret that I want to see a change of government. I mean, please.
Yeah, I'm quite keen on that idea myself.
Yeah, so the more this government makes a complete idiot of itself, I'm trying to think of the polite way of putting it. Yeah, the more they mess up, the more ridiculous they look, then the better that is for the chances of a new government. But on the flip side, you know, barring something very unexpected, we don't have a chance to elect a new government for many years. And so on balance, for the sake of the country, I'd really rather this was fixed tomorrow instead. And, you know, we say this every night. It actually is nowhere near as complicated as they're pretending. The sky will not fall in if they declare a total change of policy. They are going to use our military assets, our armed forces, our great navy that would relish this task to protect our borders and turn back the boats, or alternatively to detain anyone and everyone on arrival and return them to their countries of origin. And Keir Starmer should stand on Downing Street and say, look, I accept we've tried to take less drastic measures. It seemed the noble thing to do. I mean, the rest of us don't agree, but, you know, he's got to save his blushes. And I now accept that this simply isn't enough. And I'm afraid for the good of the country, I am now going to turn back the boats. And trust me, they will bounce up in the polls. This problem will be resolved pretty quickly. And, you know,
they'd probably win the next election if they started turning boats around. But don't tell them that,
They have a chance. They might have a chance.
They might have a chance. Anything with resolve. I mean, I would suggest at the very least, how about telling these migrants, oh, by the way, when you get here, if you want to fight your asylum seeker case, pay for your own lawyer. By the way, we won't be giving you 50 quid a week. By the way, we won't be putting you in a 4-star hotel. We won't give you free doctors. We won't give you free dentists. And we won't pay for your lawyers, as I say. All of that would stop them coming. They're coming because this is the land of plenty. This is the promised land, as Macron said. You know, you just offer these people far too much. No wonder they keep coming. Now, you talked just now, Isabel, just one last point we need to discuss. You talked about these migrants arriving in Britain as hitting the jackpot. Well, we know why they hit the jackpot, ostensibly for the first, shall we say, year of their stay or whatever, maybe more, however long their asylum seeker claim lasts, because we fund their entire lives. We pay for everything for them. They don't actually need to put their hands in their pockets themselves at all. So we pay for every aspect of their lives. After 5 years, they begin to become eligible for benefits payments, more benefits payments, and so on and so forth. That is, of course, if their claim lasts so long. But anyway, we had always been under the assumption that once they are allowed to stay, once the 50% who apply for asylum seeker get approved, way too big a figure, by the way, but that's by the by, 50% get approved to stay. So
it's way more than that, Kev. Sorry, it's more than 50%. It's about something like 80+% get approved.
Is it that many? I thought they put it up.
But it's not 100%, but it's not far off. No, I'm certain it's more than 50% of applicants get approved. Now, it used to be significantly low. It used to be around about the 60 mark. I think we're over 80% at the moment. Very happy to be corrected on that.
I think it is 49%. I think it's come down. We'll check that out. We better get that right. But even if it's 49%, that's ridiculously too high. The nearest country to us in terms of letting asylum seekers stay, I think, is France. That's about 30%. You take somewhere like Germany, that's about 12%. These are sensible amounts. We let an enormous amount stay, absurdly. Now, here's the deal, though. So we assume they get approved, then they're on their own. They start, to get jobs like the rest of us, pay for themselves. No, but no. It turns out that a considerable number of them just go on to universal credit. And new data, new statistics today reveal that in July, just gone, just as an idea of what's happening on an ongoing basis, 1,300,000 foreign nationals were claiming universal credit, and of which 174,000 to 175,000 were people with refugee or humanitarian status. That means they've probably been here more than 5 years waiting for a decision. And a further 214,000 were allowed to stay, indefinite leave to remain, and they were getting full universal credit. So it actually turns out, and by the way, these figures are alarmingly up on 2 years ago when it was 928,000 migrants claiming universal credit. So basically, the headline here, Isabel, is we think we stop paying for them when they get full residential status, that they have to then pay for themselves. But for a massive amount of them, we don't stop paying for them. We carry on giving them universal credit. We carry on giving them benefits, some of them for life. I mean, no wonder they keep coming. They must say to each other, hey, you want to get over to Britain? They'll pay for you for the rest of your life. You never have to do a day's work. It's mad.
Well, whilst they also, many of them will do a day's work, it'll just be on the black market. So that's cash in hand. And just to be clear, I'm sure we'll come back to listeners about what the actual figure is of the number of asylum claims that are currently accepted. It was certainly well over 50% some time ago. I'm not sure the figures of the claims that are rejected take into account how many years and years and years the rejected applicants can continue to appeal. I mean, there are cases in which rejected applicants have been appealing for more than 10 years. I'm pretty sure I read a case of someone who'd been appealing their refusal for asylum for 16 years. And during this time, they do everything that they can to enhance their case, for example, by having children and so on. So I would take any claims about the number of the percentage rejected with a very, very big grain of salt.
Well, I mean, the official kind of line seems to be until about 3 years ago it was over 70%, and they have made an effort to get it down, and I think it does teeter around about 50%, 49%, but we'll look that up to make sure. But either way, that is way too high an amount. Can I just ask you a last question? This is about soft touch judges. This is a story about a Nigerian migrant, guy called Ayomide Afamakindi. He's 23. 3 years ago, August 22, he sexually assaulted a poor little 19-year-old girl in the increasingly controversial seaside town of Bournemouth. There's no suggestion he's a Bournemouth asylum seeker or anything like that. He seems to hail from South London, but he was in Bournemouth. He approached this girl reasonably late at night, put his hand around her waist, his hands down her jogging bottoms. She tried to fight him off, screaming, leave me alone, leave me alone. Luckily, his friend pulled him off. Anyway, he got caught, and he finally appeared in court, and he's been spared jail by the judge because the judge accepted that this was a momentary aberration, and he'd just get a community order because of his troubled background and difficult life. What about the victim?
I mean, I don't know, could happen to anyone, couldn't it, Kev? I'm always having these momentary aberrations where I go around groping people, aren't you? I mean, it's just, it happens to all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, his troubled past ought to be a very good reason to put him behind bars for a bit until we're sure that he has had the treatment or whatever it is he needs to address whatever it was about his past that led him to behave in this way. It's so important to keep raising these cases as a contrast to Lucy Connolly, and we're not going to stop going on about that case because it is so obviously egregious. And this is a woman who said some silly things on Twitter, and she's still behind bars. I think she's about to get out any day now.
Yeah.
And yet you've got actual sexual assaulters who are let off because they had a troubled past.
It's just ridiculous. As you say, Lucy Connolly, 2 years, 7 months. This guy, a community order, because the judge accepted it was a momentary aberration when you were intoxicated. It is an offence I hope, confident will not be repeated. Taking into account your very troubled background and difficult life you have had, I'm confident you would benefit from a community-based order. Just ridiculous. Isabel, thank you very much for an excellent emergency appearance, and we'll get you on again tomorrow. Isabel Oakeshott there. We better go straight to break, take some calls afterwards.
I can speak personally as a mum, as a grandmother to 2 young children of just 3 and a year and a half, and it worries the life out of me. What sort of world are we bringing our children into? I don't even feel safe anymore working late in my own office. I used to work until sometimes 9 or 10 at night. Now I go when my staff leave because I don't feel safe on the streets, and that's in Gravesend.
It could have been tried when Starmer came in because they'd spent all that money, and it would have been some kind of way of saying to people, look, we don't really want you, and you're going to have to go back, and you're going to go to Rwanda if you're illegally landing in our country. But I think for me, the bottom line in all of this is that everyone who's arriving cannot be treated in a better way than we're treating our homeless people who are already on the streets. Many people are veterans. Or
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I ran on over long with Isabel, as is my wont. After the 9 o'clock news, we'll be talking about the soft-touch immigration judges who keep letting dangerous asylum seeker criminals stay, despite the fact they're paedophiles, sex offenders, or whatever. We'll talk about that after the break. But first, let's take a quick call. We'll take your calls after that. So get your calls coming in. You know what we're talking about. But in the meantime, let's quickly talk to Dave in Basildon. Hello, Dave. You want to talk about the migrant crisis?
Yeah, hello, Kev. Yeah, brilliant show.
Thank you.
I think this is probably the worst crisis in the country's history. Yeah. Even Hitler never managed to mount an invasion. And other than a few very damaged individuals, everybody would have fought him off. Now we've got all of our politicians welcoming the enemy in. And unless, I don't know whether Nigel Farage has got the cojones to say, right, you're all out. Anybody, whether you're legal or illegal, anyone who is not a net contributor is going to be rounded up and exported. Where they go, we either put them on a sanction or wherever and then they can choose to go back to wherever they come from after that if they don't wish to tell us. But any illegals, they have got to be rounded up and put somewhere where they can do no harm and not attack anybody. Our women are not safe, the children are not safe, our country is being utterly destroyed.
It is being destroyed. I got to sort of point out that the vast majority of migrants, are not criminals, but an alarmingly increasing number of them do seem to be breaking our laws in serious fashion, particularly in the field of sex crimes, violent crimes, drug dealing and so on and so forth. Many of these statistics, by the way, Dave, again, we've got to be quite careful because of our legal system. These people haven't been there that long, so they've just been charged with these offences and they'll have to go through our glacially slow legal system, our justice system. But, the evidence or the indications are that sex crimes, violent crimes are rising in areas where we have asylum seeker hotels. You're right, there's a lot to worry about here.
There is, and it's not just the ones committing the crimes. You've got all the ones that are sponging off of our system. 1.3 million, what you just said, all on benefit.
If they're legal, it will be hard to get rid of them. But you can't really get rid of legal people, but it'll be interesting. All right. Nigel Farage has to get elected first, so let's see what happens in the next few years, shall we, Dave? Good points. Good to talk to you. Thanks, mate. Dave in Basildon there. As I said just now, when we come back, we're going to talk about soft touch immigration judges, these judges who let people stay, who refuse to deport dangerous foreigners who've committed crimes, sex crimes, who've done prison sentences for stupid liberal reasons. We'll talk about that next, so stay tuned. See you in a few moments.
the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Before we get to our next item, you may have heard, I don't often disagree with Isabel. We don't often have many disputes, but we did just now about the number of asylum seekers that Britain, the percentage of asylum seekers who apply for asylum to stay in this country, the percentage who succeed. I said that as far as I was aware, it was about 49%. And Isabel's looked it up and she's, of course, accepted that I was right. It is to March 2025, it was 49%. It was 61% the previous year, 2024. Actually, I think until about 3 years ago, it was over 70%. So they have been bringing it down. But as I said to Isabel, 49% is still massively higher in terms of the percentage of asylum seekers that we allow to stay, that Britain allows to stay, is still massively higher than any other country in the world. As I said, I believe that our closest rival in a distant second place is France with about 30%. Germany's about 12% and so on and so forth. A lot of countries, 5%. So we are ludicrously generous to our asylum seekers. We have criteria that seem to be much looser than other countries. Your thoughts? 03444991000. Well, let's go back to the migrant crisis in a way. One of the problems with the migrant crisis, with the number of foreigners we have here, asylum seekers who come here, the worst of them who commit crimes, they end up in jail, and we may want to deport them, because they, I don't know, they've committed rape or murder or paedophile crimes, violent crimes, drug dealing, whatever. We may want to deport them. In fact, we should deport them, in my view. It goes to court, it goes to these things, these immigration tribunals, and time again the judges of these courts, they're notorious for it, make the most ridiculous soft touch decisions. The guy we're going to talk about in particular, it's only fair that we point out he is only one of a kind. It's not just him. It's a guy called Hugo Norton Taylor. He has been an immigration judge on the upper tribunal, I think for the past 6 years. He's 52, he got the job when he was 46. He's the son of a Guardian or a former Guardian journalist, a lifelong anti-Israel type, called Richard Norton Taylor. You know, you can tell which side of the political fence Richard was on or is on. Well, arguably, Hugo, his son, is a chip off the old left-wing bloc. Brilliant piece in the Mail on Sunday chronicling Mr. Norton Taylor's performance at the upper tribunal of the immigration courts by my next guest, Ross Clark. Welcome to the show, Ross.
Good evening, Kevin.
Well, this guy, I remember Hugo Norton Taylor. He first came to my attention and to a lot of our attention when he made this extremely controversial ruling that a family in Gaza who wanted to escape the hell of the Middle East should be allowed to come to Britain under terms that were specifically designed for the victims of war, refugees from Ukraine. Now, both Keir Starmer and David Lammy have both pointed out, no, this is a different deal. But Hugo Norton Taylor decided, no, this family should be allowed to come to Britain. As you pointed out in your article, if this was allowed, it could open the floodgates, because in effect it would say Britain is now taking in all comers from any war-torn region, any war-torn country in the world. It could open the doors to millions of people. So this guy, Hugo Norton-Taylor, very dubious decision there, but he's made even more ridiculous decisions. My favourite, which I reported on, I think it was last week, might have been the week before, was that some 16-year-old, a guy from Sudan turned up saying he was 16 years old, and the Home Office and the immigration officials sort of pointed out, well, you know, you say you're 16, but you've got grey hair and it's receding, so we don't think you are 16. So it goes to the lower tribunal court said, well, no, of course he's not 16, he's got grey hair and he's going bald. It goes to the upper tribunal, and Hugo Norton-Taylor ruled that this guy was clearly telling the truth, and the reason he looked so old is that the years had been tough on him due to the harrowing nature of his long journey from Sudan. Unbelievable. This is typical of this guy, but he is typical of a lot of these immigration judges. They somehow make decisions about paedophiles, violent crooks, sexual criminals. You can stay because of your human rights, etc., etc. These are decisions that I think put British people at risk. It's quite a worrying syndrome.
Well, it is, and the great tragedy of it is it totally undermines public support for the asylum system, because, you know, there are people who are genuine need to escape from, you know, injustice and so on, war and justice, so on. But the asylum system relies on public support, like anything else in a democratic society. When you have these sort of cases, they're going to undermine that public support, and you get the kind of protests we've seen in the last couple of weeks. You know, to give another example, there was a case of an Afghan national who came to Britain, claimed asylum. He then raped a woman in Glasgow, was convicted, imprisoned, and when he was released, not unreasonably, the Home Office wanted to deport him back to Afghanistan. And he was granted leave to stay on the basis that, and I'm not making this up, the Taliban might take a dim view of a violent sex offender, someone who's committed a violent sex offender in Britain. Well, I think, knowing the Taliban's approach to women, I think they probably wouldn't actually be all that bothered by what he'd done. But you know, it is absolutely ludicrous that we have this sort of fundamentalist approach, which, you know, always favours the criminal rather than public safety in Britain.
Yeah.
You know,
the point is, Ross, you know, he said, oh, you know, the Taliban will take a dim view of this sexual crime that you committed while in Britain. Well, you know, I mean, Mr. Norton-Taylor might like to know that here in Britain, we take a reasonably dim view of rape as well. I mean, so why should we saddle ourselves with this guy when he should be sent back to his own country?
There is no country in the world which does not take a dim view of violent sex offenders.
Exactly.
So on that basis, no violent sex offender could ever be deported anywhere. I mean, there was another case of a Bangladeshi national murdered his wife. And then I think he served about 12 years in jail, and when he was released, you know, he was up for deportation as well. No, he was allowed to stay because it was what he would suffer degrading treatment back in Bangladesh. Well, what about the degrading treatment he meted out to his wife by murdering her? No, public safety should be you know, vital element of all these cases, but it just gets left out. You know, it's not just Judge Norton-Taylor. There's any number of these cases caused by this sort of fundamentalist approach to human rights, which sort of totally seems to leave out the public element. And what it does, it gives, I mean, it's giving criminals giving asylum seekers, migrants, a perverse incentive to commit crimes in this country, because they can then claim that, well, we can't deport us back home because we'll suffer we'll suffer from having
persecution
with criminals. So.
And there was another case you cited is of an Albanian. We don't know quite what his problem was, but he was turned down for asylum. One of those rare people who didn't succeed in their asylum application. So it ended up at the upper Immigration Tribunal under the auspices of Mr. Norton-Taylor, Hugo Norton-Taylor, and he reversed the decision to deport this guy. Said he could stay because to deport him would be harsh on his stepchildren. So this guy was allowed to stay because there's some kids that he knows that wouldn't like it very much if he was deported. They weren't his own children. Now that is a strange interpretation of our asylum system and our deportation system, that if you know some kids, doesn't have to be yours, who might be upset if you were deported, that's a reason you can stay. That's ludicrous.
Yeah, well, this is the notorious clause in the European Convention on Human Rights, which guarantees the right to a family life. And it's been used by any number of migrants to avoid deportation, among them very many serious criminals.
Paedophiles, a lot of paedophiles.
Yeah, and drug dealers. One was a linchpin of a drug gang. And what, they know full well that if they can hook up with an English woman and either, impregnate her, get a child, or just, move in and with the stepchildren and so on, they can then claim this right to a family life. So, it is utterly ludicrous the way that, their rights are being put above any consideration of the rights of the public.
Yeah. I should stress, Ross, that Hugo Norton-Taylor is just one of a kind. He's not responsible for all of these decisions. I've reported myself on I think 2 or 3 cases where paedophiles, asylum seekers, migrants, who commit paedophile crimes, sexually abuse children, they do 3, 4, 5 years, 3 years in jail or something. They come out, are slated for immediate deportation, quite rightly, by the Home Office. They go to a tribunal, one of these tribunals, and every single time they win their case on the basis they've got a right to a family life and that to be deported would be unfair on their own children. To which one might respond, well, what about the other children in Britain? First of all, paedophiles aren't necessarily safe around their own children, but they're certainly not safe around other children. So they're making this decision that this guy can stay, even though he's a paedophile, and even though that puts children in this country in danger. These decisions are not only bizarre and grotesque, they're dangerous.
Mm-hmm. No, it's interesting the way the government has reacted to this this week, because these endless scandals. The government finally reacted and said, well, we're going to deport criminals first, but they are still going to be allowed to, conduct an appeal against their deportation from their home country. So, you might deport a criminal back to Albania, but then they can apply from Albania against their deportation, and if they're successful, then they can come back. What needs to then? Sorry, that is not enough. What needs to happen is that this European Convention on Human Rights needs to be either redrafted or we withdraw from it and we have a British Bill of Rights instead, which states very clearly if you are a convicted criminal, being deported is part and parcel of your penalty, your punishment. If you lose an appeal against your conviction, there is no further appeal against deportation. You are automatically gone. Doesn't matter how many children you have in the country, how many goldfish or whatever other perverse reason you might give.
Or whether or not your 10-year-old son likes foreign chicken nuggets.
Yes, chicken nuggets, or whether your home country will take a dim view of it. Just sweep all that aside. No, you get deported back to your home country, and once we've done that, and people can see it operating, a proper legal justice system which punishes criminals by sending them home at the end of their sentences. Till we have that, I'm afraid these cases are going to undermine faith in the asylum system and in our migration system. And that then makes it all the harder for genuine asylum seekers to, be accepted here. It makes it very much more difficult for migration generally to be accepted by the public at large. These cases, and they might only cover a small minority of migrants, but they are absolutely toxic to public opinion, and quite reasonably so.
Well, as I just alluded to, these judges, these are the people, at least one of them, this wasn't Mr. Norton-Taylor, but another one did rule that a guy, I think it was an Albanian, who was being deported. I think he was a drug dealer, I seem to remember. And he successfully pleaded against deportation and was granted deportation on the grounds that his 10-year-old son didn't like foreign chicken nuggets. Now, these are the kind of decisions that are being made. Now, we did approach Mr. Norton-Taylor, Hugo Norton-Taylor, for a response to this. I'm going to stress again, I'm not just pointing the finger at him. You made that clear in your article as well, but he does seem to be typical of a type of left-wing judge that are presiding over these tribunals. Mr. Norton-Taylor did not respond to our requests or our entreaties for a response to him. But what it comes down to, Ross, is this, isn't it? Yes, personally, I don't know if you agree, but personally, I think we should leave the European Convention on Human Rights. It seems like a sort of concrete boot around our ankles that is completely destroying our ability to deal with migrants that we don't want, asylum seekers that we don't want. It's destroying our ability to deal with them properly and sensibly, to be honest with you. However, the real problem with the ECHR, since we're saddled with it, is Norton-Taylor and his mates, his ilk. It's the way they interpret it. Now, I'm told by my lawyer friends that it's perfectly possible to take the ECHR and say, no, paedophiles are not allowed to stay. No, you can forget about chicken nuggets. It's perfectly possible to interpret the ECHR in a way that could facilitate kind of sensible deportations of undesirables. But these judges choose to interpret it in a very sort of left-wing, anti-British way, I would suggest. Therein lies the big problem.
Yeah, well, put it this way. I mean, do you think that the lawyers and others who drafted the European Convention on Human Rights in 1950 really intended it to protect drug dealers, criminals, murderers, rapists, paedophiles, and prevent them being deported to their home countries? Absolutely not. What is going on now, the judgments which are now being made in the name of this convention are utterly at odds with its original intentions. It was originally intended, very high-minded, very worthy, noble idea of, how could we stop a future Nazi Germany developing it? How could we cut it off in its tracks? And, that is the atmosphere in which the European Convention was written. But over the years, it has gained lots of extra bits. There's something in it called the living instrument doctrine, which, basically is a polite way, a euphemism of saying judges making it up as they go along. And, they can interpret it in sort of ways which might appeal to them, and then it sort of evolves into something very, very different from what it was originally intended to be. Now, I wouldn't, my first idea preference would not be just to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. There are a lot of other member states of this court which similarly are getting fed up with these kind of judgments, and which have, are calling now for reform. Now, what we should do is get together with them and make sure this convention is reformed. And if judges put any opposition to that, just drop the whole thing and redraft a new convention which just has the fundamental rights and does not have, does not sort of stray into sort of all kinds of areas which the ECHR now does. And to make it plain that, this document is not there to help criminals, terrorists, and other people who could come to Britain, come to any country and do, citizenry harm. You have to have the right to deport criminals and terrorists. That should be our starting point. If we can't reform the ECHR to allow us to do that, then we should leave. But, I would say have a go at reform first.
We could try that, Ross.
Together with those other countries which are
sure, we could try that, Ross. But I do think in the end, ECHR or not, we are going to continue to experience problems as long as we have all of these judges who have this sort of frame of mind that somehow or other they want to favour foreign criminals over the safety of Brits. It's a very strange frame of mind, if you ask me. But yeah, we have a big problem with them. And great article in the Mail on Sunday, and very good to talk to you as always, Ross. Thank you very much for your time. Ross Clark there, columnist. He's a columnist for The Sun, but he also writes, he writes for pretty much everyone. But great article in the most recent edition of the Mail on Sunday. The headline, why this soft-touch asylum judge who sides with rapists and murderers is mocking all of us. There you have it. Let me know what you think about that. 03444991000. We've got a break now. When we come back, plenty of times for your calls, for your WhatsApp voice notes, and I'll read some of your messages as well. So a lot of time still to go. Let's get stuck in. It's good to talk on Talk. Phone me up, 03444991000. You next. Stick around.
People who are...
The British people, as I said, have reached a point where they're going, I'm sorry, enough is enough. The indigenous population in this country...
Deport without allowing them to claim asylum, which was what the Tories want to do and which was deemed to be illegal, you would have to leave the ECHR.
Correct.
The ECHR is a piece of legislation that underpins, for example, the Good Friday Agreement in Northern Ireland. So if you were to pull out of that international agreement, you are putting lives in danger in Northern Ireland. That's certainly not something I'd want to do.
That's not quite true, is it?
Not something I'd want to see.
That's not quite true, because you can guard against that by providing domestic legislation that would run in parallel with what is already there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It is time now for your calls, your messages and your WhatsApp voice notes. Got lots of WhatsApp voice notes. I got lots of everything actually, but let's kick off with Julian. I got a message. This is a voice note. It says, "Nation of shopkeepers."
Hi, Kevin. I was just thinking how ironic it is that Napoleon Bonaparte all those years ago called us a country of shopkeepers. And now, thanks to Macron and various governments in this country, we can now simply be looked at as a country of shoplifters and worse. Anyway, food for thought. Have a good night. Bye.
I like that, a nation of shoplifters. That's about what we're turning into, with great respect to the millions of us who don't shoplift, but more and more people are doing it. The Prime Minister doesn't want to call them scumbags, unlike that excellent shopkeeper in Wrexham, who runs a retro store, who put a sign in his window warning customers, sorry, I've had to put all my produce locked into cabinets. That's because scumbag shoplifters keep nicking it. The Prime Minister let it be known that he would not have used the term scumbags. Well, maybe not. Well, what term would you use then, Keir? Would it be like vulnerable victims of a society that's abandoned them or something like that? Great. Yeah, what about the shopkeepers, eh? Let's listen to Joey. It's a short message. It says, "We're done."
Evening, Kev. We're done with stopping the boats. We need mass deportations. The horse is already bolted.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to be coming to that conclusion, but you think, well, you know, how does that work? How do you mass deport people? It might be a nice idea in many people's minds, but I think practically be very, very difficult. That's the problem. You look at this migrant crisis, you look at, more than 2,000 people come over in the last 6 days, ever since the new deterrent failed to deter anyone. You look at the billions of pounds we're giving to asylum seekers in universal credit, 1.2 million, more than 1.3 million asylum seekers, foreign nationals on universal credit, and you think, well, this is just intractable. The whole chaos, the shambles of the migrant crisis, the asylum seeker crisis, is now interwoven into our national fabric, and you wonder, how can we unweave it? How can we sort it out? If you've got any ideas, let me know. But it's worrying, folks. 03444991000. Let's talk to the excellent Herbie in Harrow. Hello, Herbie. How you doing, man?
Good evening, Kerry. Good evening. I think it's time for the government to put its hands up and says, we're done for. We haven't got a clue what to do. We do not know what to do. We can't control anything. We can't give anything other than give everything to the illegal immigrants and nothing to the people of this country. We're done for. We must admit we are a waste of space. A big waste of space.
Well, as I was just saying, I mean, I'm all for, somehow or other getting to grips. It's more than a migrant crisis. It's an asylum seeker crisis. It's a foreign national crisis. We have so many foreign nationals. We learned today 1.3 million of them are claiming universal credit. These are often asylum seekers who spent like 3-4 years waiting to be allowed to stay. We paid for them for that entire 4 years, 5 years, whatever it was. Now we learn we're paying for them as they proceed through life. We just fund these people. We've got a rising crime problem among them. There are more and more of them committing serious crimes. People go, oh, let's deport all of them. Well, you know, in principle, you know, I can see why people might think that. But think about it, Herbie. As I say, this whole system, all of these people, millions of them, are interwoven into modern Britain. And it's hard to know what the hell we can do to sort this out.
But Kevin, our own people can't get some of these credits, can't get help or support. When you've got ex-veterans that can't get housed or whatever, where has it gone wrong? So wrong. If the government can't see this, then they are bloody blind and stupid. I think it's time for them to wake up and admit they have been defeated. The economies are sinking and shrinking. Everything's at fault. The cost of living's going through the roof. People are struggling. Somebody said to me, a pharmacist said to me this evening, Herbie, is hard getting anybody in the shops. I said, oh, really? I can outnick them anyway, so, you know, what chance do you stand? That's why they're not in jobs. They're not in there spending money. They're taking
the only people in the shops are shoplifters. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Honestly, Herbie, you're exactly right. We are assailed from all angles with massive social, cultural and economic problems. And you don't want... It's hard to... feel any faith in this current government to sort things out, isn't it?
Oh, it's not possible, Kevin.
Exactly.
It's just they might as well give up the ghost and admit their failure because they're going to be in for a good idea. We suffered enough, Kevin. We can't suffer 4 more years of this because we'll all go mad.
Well,
we'll all be in the loony bin.
I mean, I wish we could do something about it, but I fear we've made our political bed. We voted for this lot. I didn't. I'm sure you didn't either, but millions of people did. And that was the mistake. That was the mistake of modern times. It really was. We're stuck with them, Herbie, and God knows what the next 4 years may bring. But I'm not confident that they're going to be good times ahead.
Yeah, you're right there, Kevin. You're right there. It's not going to be happy. It's not going to be happy days. Here we come. I'm afraid it's going to be miserable days.
Well, Herbie, keep ringing and we'll share our misery. It's always good to talk to you, mate. Thanks for a good call, as always. Herbie in Harrow there. I mean, it is a bit depressing, all of this, but, I mean, do you see... Seriously, if you see any cause for optimism, any glimmers of light, glimmers of hope in this country at the moment, given what's going on, generally, culturally, socially, economically, in terms of the migrant crisis, 2,000, more than 2,000 since last Wednesday. And that's supposed to be under the terms of the new deterrent. Not really working. Downing Street still saying, smash the gangs has not failed. Give it time. What are you talking about? Of course it's failed. And so has one in, one out. Already. It's obvious. 03444991000. We've got a break now. More of your calls when we come back.
across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Text of the Week Award, without a doubt, from Allsworth, Graham Haitley. Graham has texted in with what Keir Starmer would call shoplifters. I love this. He said Keir Starmer would call shoplifters irregular shoppers. That's brilliant. Exactly right. They're irregular shoppers, like irregular migrants. Yeah, exactly. Illegal shoplifters he'd call irregular. Since that seems to be his word for illegal migrants, he calls them irregular migrants. The King calls them irregular migrants as well. They're not irregular, you Madge. They're illegal. Same goes for you, Keir. But yeah, if you're going to call them irregular migrants, shoplifters are irregular shoppers. Brilliant, Graham, brilliant. Let's listen to another voice note. This is Pete, who has questions about benefits for migrants.
Question, Kevin. Why do people keep saying that these illegal immigrants will be getting these benefits for life? Will they not be required to work, even if they are allowed to stay here? Is it possible that they are going to be getting them for life, unquestioned, when everybody else, if they need help off this government, you get put for a ringer? What's going on here? Something very suspicious, right, when they can just get the stuff handed to them for the whole life and British people get absolutely nothing.
Well, I'm not sure, Pete. I mean, it's kind of a weird system, but the main total figures for universal credit are worrying enough. 8 million, that's up from, I think, less than 7 million a year ago. So that's soaring. 8 million Brits around, people generally around the country. Now, something like 3.7 million of them have been signed off for life. So Brits get signed off pretty easily for life too. Some of them on the phone. We've heard stories of like people in their 20s, 23 years old, get a quick phone call to the doctor and they never have to work for the rest of their lives. This is absolutely crazy. So, in fairness, I don't think migrants necessarily get signed off for life any more easily than Brits, but certainly the usual percentage of them will do. So they come here, we pay for them throughout their asylum seeker days, they get approved to stay, and then we start paying for them for the rest of their lives when they have the right to reside permanently. Great system, isn't it? Let's talk to Carl in Liverpool. Hi, Carl.
Evening, Kev. You all right?
Yeah, I'm right, mate. What would you like to say?
Yeah, it's about the 50,000 migrant boats or migrants that have come in. I spoke to Julie earlier on this afternoon and said that how can someone, a man in a party, be so stupid? Surely, because I think there's a sinister twist to all this, Kev, because, stupid, you can get people who are stupid, but to just keep allowing it to go on and then somehow make a deal where we get 17 for one, but then we still get 2,000 and odd in the last week and a bit.
Yeah. I mean, let's get that right, Carl. Since the system, 1 in, 1 out, started last Wednesday, so 6 days, it hasn't been 1 in, 1 out. It's been 2,000 in, well, actually about 2,200 in, none out. So it's not working very well, is it?
No, Kev, and do you know what, if I may just... so if I don't pay my TV licence and then I get a fine that later down the line and I don't pay that fine... quite possibly I could get a custodial sentence for that, just for not paying a TV licence. This man is robbing the British people of their freedoms, their rights to just live, speak, money. We can't even hold him to account. PMQs is worthless. He doesn't answer a question. He deflects and starts insulting people. I mean, this man needs to be held to account for what he's doing, because he's got to be complicit, and so there has to be another reason.
Yeah, look, Carl, I'm really simple. A lot of people feel this because Keir Starmer and this government generally are so jaw-droppingly incompetent when it comes to the migrant crisis. Every initiative is ridiculous. They're actually claiming that the Smash the Gangs initiative has not failed. Of course it's failed. It's 13 months in, 1 year, 1 month, no gangs smashed. Ergo, it has failed. The one-in, one-out scheme has already failed. It's supposed to be a deterrent. Hasn't deterred anyone over the last 6 days. More than 2,000 pouring in. So fail. So people think, oh, they must be doing this deliberately. I honestly don't think they are, Carl. I honestly think that Keir Starmer would love to solve the migrant crisis because it's such a massive headache and a problem for him, but he doesn't have the resolve to do it. He doesn't have the guts to say, well, I'll solve it by turning the boats around. I'll solve it by no longer giving them legal aid or free food or free doctors or free dentists. I'll solve it like that. He doesn't have the resolve or the guts. Just useless. I think he'd like to solve this crisis, but he just can't because he's not good enough.
Yeah, actually, so obviously he is stupid then.
yeah. It's honestly, mate.
I do know what it is, Kev. I'm a veteran, and I went into the city centre I haven't been for a while, and you just see homeless veterans, and you see all these Romanian begging gangs and foreign kids on bikes, Uber, and then you get veterans that are getting kicked out of a home.
It's terrible. I did that story. The Bolton people, the poor guys in Bolton.
Kevin, this is the thing. Where does it end, and where do the British people? Because you've seen from the marches and the protests, peaceful protests, and then Antifa have flown in to disrupt, and again, a group of people that are not held to account for what they do in their actions. Obviously, you had the protests for Palestine, and a lot of people got arrested. But these are violent people, Kev.
Yeah, but to be fair, Carl, I mean, they've tried their best, and let's be balanced here. It's not just the Antifa masked thugs from the left. No, there have been thugs from the right as well. Both sides have been trying to cause trouble, and respect to the people of this country, the proper protesters who are from the local communities. They have kept these protests peaceful, which is a good thing.
I've got young kids, and like so many parents, you just think, well, what about my children's futures?
To use a cliche, it just feels like the country's going to hell in a handcart with no light at the end of the tunnel. And on that very depressing note, Carl, it's always good to talk to you, mate. Sorry to be so downbeat, but you know what I mean. That's Carl in Liverpool. Let's go to break. When we come back, more voice notes, more messages, more phone calls. Stick around.
So in order to deport asylum seekers without allowing them to claim asylum, which was what the Tories want to do and which was deemed to be illegal, you would have to leave the ECHR.
Correct.
The ECHR is a piece of legislation that underpins, for example, the Good Friday Agreement in Northern Ireland. So if you were to pull out of that international agreement, you are putting lives in danger in Northern Ireland. That's certainly not something I'd want to do.
That's not quite true, is it?
Something I'd want to see the government do.
That's not quite true, because you can guard against that by providing domestic legislation that would run in parallel with what is already there.
The British people, as I said, have reached a point where they're going, I'm sorry, enough is enough. The indigenous population in this country, whether people like this or not, are 28th in the queue. And when you pay your taxes and when you live your life correctly and you don't break the law, and when you think that, you know, I'm trying to bring up my kids and put food on the table and I'm being ostracised and I'm being forced to feel like a third-rate citizen, and that's when you need something to happen. And what I find astonishing, and of course, Reform, your partner, Richard Tice.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. WhatsApp voice notes here. Here's Dave.
Good evening, Kevin. Dave here. Is there no organisation, political or law firms or anybody like that, can take on this government for the lack of security for their indigenous people? They all seem to care about migrants who just come here to sit on the gravy train. Is there nobody out there? Please, is there nobody out there? Good show, mate.
Thanks, Dave. I don't think there is. There's not much we can do about this. You're getting more and more people saying, well, look, you know, a manifesto, a government gets in on a manifesto, they're breaking the terms of their manifesto and therefore they've broken a contract, can't we sue them? All of this is pie in the sky. I appreciate the sentiments, but there's no way of getting rid of this government. You can't just sort of say, yeah, breaking your contract, we're going to sue you. It's not going to work, is it? In a month of Sundays. You know, I got someone here saying, oh, there's no name on this. It's about time we started calling for this government to be dissolved. Well, you know, how? Keir Starmer's the Prime Minister. They're the government. They've got a big majority in Westminster. They don't want to be dissolved. So how are we going to dissolve them? Here's Hev. He says, would you say that a manifesto is a contract? So this government has broken the contract, so where's the consequences for Starmer and his crew? Well, you know, what consequences? You know, breaking manifestos is now a sort of the political norm. Most parties break their manifestos. You know, Labour breaking promises left, right and centre. You know, there's nothing we can do. I mean, I don't mean to be depressing and don't think I'm not on your side. I'd love to get rid of this government. I'd love to come up with some kind of ruse. I just can't think of one. Let's have well, let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Andrew in Poland. Oh my God. Hello, Andrew.
Yes, hello, Kevin. Thank you for
Can I ask you what you're doing in Poland? Do you live there?
No, I still live in Scotland, but I travel a lot to see friends stay with friends in Poland.
Okay. Go on. So what would you like to say anyway, Andrew? Sorry.
Right. Well, I've just been reading in detail about the new Schengen travel rules for UK citizens.
Yeah.
And I'm absolutely horrified that we'll have to get fingerprinted now.
Yeah.
Well, you know, in my mind, you know, I'm 67 years old. I thought that only happened to potential criminals or active criminals. Yeah. And you've got to prove that you have enough money to sustain yourself whilst you're there. You have to have mandatory insurance, which before it used to be optional.
And this is all because we're no longer in the EU, and these are Brussels rules, right?
Absolutely. And I'm beginning to realise the con that was Brexit. I believed in Brexit at the time. You know, when it was first mooted, there would be the bonfire of all the ridiculous regulations and free travel.
Yeah.
And all this sort of thing. But I'm now beginning to realise that the governments, and I mean both governments, Labour and Tory, were hiding behind the fact, you know, when anything went wrong or there was a stupid rule or something, oh, it's the EU, it's the EU. So that was the excuse at the time. But now, you know, with what's going on in the UK,
I mean, you know,
we do realise...
Yeah, what you're saying is not an especially popular view on this station. Most of our audience are committed Brexiteers. Most of our audience take the view I've got some sympathy with them, that the EU is a sclerotic organisation suffering immense economic problems. And in fact, we have achieved quite a few trade deals and international treaties that would have been impossible if we were still a slavish member of the Brussels Club.
Yes, I do understand that, Kevin. I actually voted for Brexit, but I'm beginning to realise that some of the rules that are now coming through, that the way the Brexit exit was handled by the Tory government and Theresa May, etc., you don't realise how rotten a deal we got, or we were allowed to happen, until you're actually going through
I mean, I take your point, but it was always going to be the case that travelling, was going to become a little bit more difficult around Europe. We were no longer allowed to. We were no longer allowed to live in Europe. There were, arguably downsides, but the plus sides are we make our own decisions. We are in charge of our own sovereign country, and we don't take rules from foreigners in Belgium anymore.
Well, I have to disagree with you, Kevin. It's probably not.
Well, you think it's good that we take rules from people in Belgium, from foreigners?
Not at all. That was one of the reasons I voted for Brexit. But the situation we have, not through Europe or anything, but through this current government and the previous government who agreed to all these rules that are now becoming apparent, to ordinary people like me, you don't realise the new rules until you're actually faced with them.
Yeah, but I think on that, but I mean, things, certainly travelling around Europe are going to be a bit more difficult, obviously. But on a national basis, I think Brexiteers feel that making our own decisions, governing our own country on a sovereign basis, not taking instructions from foreigners in Brussels is a good thing for the country.
Yes, that would be, but I tell you what, Kevin, I wish our current government had the same view.
Well, yeah, they want to get back into Europe, but a lot of people don't.
Well, that's my point, Kevin.
Yeah, all right. Well, all right, Andrew. Well, I take your point, and I respect your viewpoint. I don't really agree with you. I think we're better off out of Brussels, but I do accept it's probably making travel very difficult, or a little more difficult than it was. But good points, Andrew, and thank you for ringing, and enjoy Poland. Let's listen to hey. Remainer there. Remainer alert. No, he seemed like a nice guy. You know what he's saying. Voice notes. Deb's on.
Hi, Kevin. It's Deb from Lincolnshire. I went to Gibraltar this weekend. It was my birthday. My husband's posted over there at the moment with the army. And I met a guy called Lorenzo, and he told me he was British. And he said to me, but I'm Gibraltarian. And he says, but I am British Gibraltarian. I was like, yep, okay. They have no immigration issues. They have a zero tolerance on anybody kicking off or having a fight or causing any trouble. And we were just having a good chat. And I was actually sat there with a tear in my eye going, this place is so safe. How can a peninsula like that be so safe and we're not? I really would like to know why. I couldn't get back in this country without a passport. How is it these people can just rock up? Oh, and I did fly back and I saw a dinghy. That was odd. But anyway, keep up the good work. Great show.
Thank you, Debs. I think Gibraltar's, renowned to be nice and safe. It's like sort of Britain from some years back. I went there some years ago. It was a bit like Britain in the 1950s. Not that I was around then, but you know what I mean. Nothing wrong with that. But of course, there's now this kind of rather strange deal with Spain. So, some of our independence, some people believe the independence of Gibraltar has been compromised. Here's another voice note. John on Sadiq Khan and clean air.
If Mr Khan is that interested in the clean air in London, why doesn't he do something about the London Underground? It's incredible. Everything just seems to be virtue signalling from him. It's madness. OK, Kev. Thank you. Bye.
Well, I'll tell you what, John, that's a good idea, because I take the tube far too often, at least twice a day, quite often at the week. I'm always on the tube. And the air quality down there is well known to be dangerous, and the temperatures, when it's hot like this, it's just stunning. It's illegal. The temperature on the tube right now, it would be illegal to transport animals at. So we can take it apparently, but animals couldn't. It's unbelievable. Final WhatsApp voice note, because we haven't got long. This is Tristan.
I have to ask, obviously it's critical mass now, but what happens when it gets to like 5,000, 10,000, 15,000? What happens when it gets to absolute obscene numbers like that? We just are not big enough. We're an island at the end of the day. I don't get why they just can't stop giving away free gifts and all sorts of gifts. Just stop giving them things to give them these incentives. Is it that hard? Are they that stupid? It's just getting absolutely ridiculous. It really, really is. I just feel like I'm working. My taxes are just going on paying for blimmin' immigrants. It's just too much now.
Well, Tristan, yeah, I understand your frustrations. This is Elsa, a note here, saying a text. Are we supposed to believe these maverick judges are acting on their own initiative? Surely they are under strict orders from the great ex-DPP Sir Keir Starmer. He told them to go hard on the South Bolt protesters. I'm certain they're acting under orders from the top. They, like the police, are responsible to the PM. Actually, they're in dispute at the moment. Starmer does feel that they're going too easy on, paedophiles and rapists and murderers that we want to deport. He wants them to get tougher. So I'm not entirely convinced that Starmer is successfully telling these immigration judges what to do, because they're not doing what he likes, what he wants. So, I'm not really... I know your point, Elsa, but I suspect they're going their own way. Let's talk quickly to Deborah in Oldham. Hi, Deborah.
Hello. Right, I think that Keir Starmer,
Yep.
is being paid by a private organisation.
Such as?
The Masons.
Who? The Masons?
Mm.
You think that Keir Starmer's being paid by the Freemasons? I don't think he even is a Freemason, is he?
Well, he does not care about anything, does he? So he's getting his money from somewhere, isn't
he's a multi-millionaire, and he gets like 170 grand a year to be Prime Minister. He's still got legal interests. He does very nicely, thank you. That's where he gets his money from.
I know, but I work. I've got sciatica and I've got arthritis, and I work and it's like, what the hell is, I don't know. Everybody can get money except me.
Okay, well, sure. I mean, everybody's having a tough time, Deborah. But I don't think Keir Starmer needs to take his money from any private organisation. He's doing very nicely anyway. I
just thought, it's just like an inkling.
It's an interesting thought, but I don't think it's the case. But Deborah, I've got to move on. The show's nearly over. Very quickly, let's talk to Steve in Hertfordshire. You want to talk about shoplifters, yes, Steve?
Yes, I do. I go to a regular shop, and it's on every